Use the gavel. All right, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Marcy, any announcements?
Yes, I have a couple. First, we have a new school board rep. So Trevor's here, and you want to introduce our new member?
Use the mic.
Along the way, if you have any questions about anything we're talking about, just interrupt us.
Yeah, there's a ton of like acronyms and things like that that just speak out and say like, what are you guys talking about? Because at times we'll forget. And these guys, the school has all sorts of ones that I don't know what they're talking about either. So, but we'll try to remember to keep you up to speed on that. So great, welcome, excellent. And we have a new school board member. We've had a meeting, but Angela Hubbard, welcome. There we go.
I have a couple more,
okay.
Bryce, sorry. So Lori will join us later. Adam will join us later as well. Lori it'll be later remotely. And then we were scheduled to have the BMS theater here, but because we had no school today and due to the weather, they're not here. And then lastly, we had the MOU with the Bow Education Association that we talked about last month. That came to me yesterday. So I don't know if you want to act on it today. Those changes were made that we discussed, or we can hold it until May. We could, yes. We've talked about it, and it's not any different, and it just requires your signature. It'll be quick.
Is it okay, Seth, if we wait till May? Okay. Well, although it's just until, oh no, it's for next year too, I think.
It's for the duration of the contract.
The rest of this year and next year? Okay. Okay, so then, yeah, Marcy's right, but none of you guys have seen it, so. Why don't you guys look at it? But I don't even think it's worth discussing.
Did you give it to us?
I gave it to you, and then it was put in lawyer format, as I would put
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can share it out after this.
Yeah, and just to super minor little tweaks, and
Yep.
I'm fine with it. Once the four of you are fine with it, we'll presumably approve it in
Great.
May.
And that's it
Okay.
for me.
That's it for you? All right. Do we have a motion to approve the March 7th and March 29 meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Is Wendy here?
Wendy is, it's being live streamed, and so she's listening that way.
Okay. I have one comment, Wendy, so close to perfect, but one comment under the BMS athletic fees, it should say 0 to either 25 to 40. And right now it just says 25 to 40. So add 0.
Oh,
What page is that?
That's all I had.
What page is that, Bryce?
It's page 4, I think. It's D, like,
Oh, yeah, got it. Okay.
So we basically start every meeting looking at the meeting minutes from our prior meeting, or in this case, prior 2 meetings, and then it's routine. It's almost hardly any discussion whatsoever, really. Anyone else? All in favor with the said amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, let's move on to the next special presentation by the Department of Environmental Services. Any intro or anything you want to?
Just that we have Ian Atwell here. He's a program manager for Get the Let Out grant at Department of Environmental Services, and so he's here to do some education for us and to talk about the process. So he's going to.
Excellent.
I'd just like to thank the board and the administration for their engagement and support of remediating the risk to any of our students and staff. to the unacceptable levels of lead in the water they use. This commitment demonstrates the values of our board and administration to ensure that the best interest of our community, academically, psychologically, and physically, is first priority. I would also like to thank them for their openness and willingness to support my desire to ask Ian Atwell from the Department of Environmental Services to come and inform us about the risks and opportunities available to us, and to also make this meeting available via YouTube for those unable to attend in person. The consideration shows their desire for transparency and collaboration with our community. I would also like to thank Ian Atwell from DES for braving the weather to come here and generously share his expertise so that we, as elected officials in the administration of our district, are able to address this health hazard within our schools. And finally, I'd like to thank the community members who are either here in person or watching at home for their commitment to our collaboration on this project. If you are unable to be here in person, do not hesitate to reach out to us about your thoughts or questions. And Ian, welcome.
Thank you for having me. So I oversee the Get the Lead Out program, which is responsible for testing for lead in all schools, public and private, as well as licensed childcares in the state of New Hampshire, housed in the Department of Environmental Services in the Drinking Water and Groundwater Bureau. So I'm going to just kind of go over some background lead information for the state, just trying to give folks a context if you're not familiar with the topic. Go through the specifics of this program as it relates to schools. I have some data specific to the Bow schools, as well as some statewide data that I want to share. And then the big reason I'm here is to just make sure that you all are aware of a funding opportunity that we have that will cover 100% of any remediation costs that you folks have incurred here, and really encouraging you and other schools across the state to apply and take advantage of that.
Ian, do you want like questions if they come up during your presentation, or wait till the end, or what's your preference?
I'll defer to how you all like to run your meetings.
I mean, I'm not
either is
expecting-
fine with me.
Not expecting a ton, but one question I had was, I heard from your introduction, are you focused, you being Ian, focused solely on lead in the water or any contaminants in the water?
So the program that I manage is just focused on lead in drinking water in schools and child
Okay,
cares.
all right, thanks.
Yep. All right. So, like I said, I want to just start with some general context. So this is actually the 2021 Department of Health and Human Services data based on blood lead levels for children age 6 and under. So obviously, age 6 and under, number of those children are not school age, but testing at age 1 and 2 is the requirement in the state. So just wanting to kind of give folks a context of how many children across the state are we talking about that have an issue with elevated blood lead levels. And you see for 2021, you're looking at 467 kids under age 6 across the state of New Hampshire. 2022 data just came out since your agenda was finalized, so there is some updated information, but brand new coming out. So in that report that Health and Human Services generated for 2021, they did break it out by SAU, so able to kind of highlight Bow, and that's obviously the entire SAU. And based on the color, you can see that in 2021, there were between 0 and 10 cases for children under 6 in the SAU. So again, just trying to give you a context of how many children, how many families have been affected by this issue. Again, if you're not familiar, lead is not good for people, particularly children. Can cause damage to the brain and nervous system, slowed growth and development, learning and behavior issues, and hearing and speech problems. EPA and Center for Disease Control both acknowledge that there is no known safe level of lead in children's blood. Similar information, just a different format, kind of looking at the impacts on an individual child, impacts on the child's future, and then those societal costs, healthcare, joblessness, special education costs, and juvenile justice impacts. So, sources of lead. I'm here focused on water. The law that my program is connected with is specific to water. But again, want to give folks a context as part of the outreach that I do across the state. So, these are kind of the typical sources of lead that we see. Lead paint is a big one. Obviously, we have older housing stock here in New Hampshire. So, any housing built prior to 1978 very likely has lead paint in it. Those friction surfaces, windows and door frames, or chipping and flaking paint are a large source of lead exposure. Obviously, when that's outside and that falls down into the soil, soil can be a source as well. Obviously, certain jobs and hobbies can expose children or people to lead. Household items, toys, food, kitchenware, spices, cosmetics can also be a source. And then again, I'm here to talk about the drinking water aspect. And lead is not naturally occurring in water in New Hampshire, so it is coming from plumbing. And the big factor here, and you may see this in your buildings here in the SAU, is building age is a large factor here. So just kind of quickly going through this timeline. Before 1930, buildings were very likely to contain actual lead pipes. And then between 1930 and 1986, lead pipes were federally allowed, and certainly we're likely to see lead solder, which used to join those pipes together, copper pipes together. 1986 to 2014, lead-free was defined as up to 8% lead, which is a significant number. So even through 2014, that 8% lead and solders can be a contributing factor. And then kind of the current era that we're in, 2014 to present, lead-free is defined as 0.25% or 1/4%. So if you have plumbing prior to 2014, that can certainly be a contributing source of lead. And again, just a graphic here, that copper pipe and lead solder or faucets, fixtures, can be a very common source of lead in water. So there's a number of factors that affect lead concentration. We can see variation over time in samples. Probably the largest one is how long that water is sitting in pipes. If it's sat in pipes for months over, say, a summer break, you're going to probably see a higher number than if it's just sat for 12 hours overnight. So that's a big variable, as well as temperature, acidity, mineral content, and we've already talked about the age of the building being a significant factor as well. So just some general hints, and these extend well beyond a school setting, but just some general best practices to reduce exposure to lead in drinking water. So always use cold water for drinking and cooking. If you know you have a lead issue in a building or at home, flush that tap every morning before you use the water. If you have an elevated level of lead, you may want to consider using bottled water as an interim step. Replace faucets and fixtures, and then retest to confirm that you've addressed the issue. Obviously, you can install a filter. You want to make sure that it's certified to remove lead, and then retest. And then something we see typically in a school setting as well, if it's a bathroom faucet and people aren't drinking from it, you may want to just convert that to a hand wash only station, label it as such permanently, and everyone knows not to consume that. All right, so this program stems out of New Hampshire law. So initially, this law was signed into effect in 2018. There were significant updates in July of 2022. It dropped the action level from 15 parts per billion down to 5 parts per billion. And it specifies that every facility in the state has to do 3 rounds of testing 6 months apart. And where things get a little confusing for folks is this is in addition to and separate from any testing that you have to do as a public water system. So totally separate requirement. I'm not going to go through this, but there is a document up on our website just clarifying the differences between what's required as a public water system and what's required for this Get the Lead Out of Drinking Water program. So our goals, and again, I appreciate you having me here today, is to increase awareness of and compliance with this state requirement. We're here to offer support, technical advice. We have a helpline that is available to facilities and anyone who has questions to call. And obviously, we cover the analysis costs for public schools and licensed child care programs since 2022. And our goal is just to make this data accessible, make it transparent, make sure folks understand that it's out there, and that if they have questions to reach out to clarify, with the overall goal of reducing kids' exposure to lead. So just real quickly to talk about what happens when a sample tests at or above 5 parts per billion. So first thing is we want access to that fixture to be blocked. We don't want anybody to be consuming that elevated level of lead. We want communication to go out to the community, letting folks know, like, hey, there were some elevated levels detected. Create a remediation plan that's submitted to us to make sure that that issue is being addressed, and then obviously retest after we've done any remediation to make sure that that actually resolved the issue. So these 3 rounds of sampling are 6 months apart each. Most facilities are finishing up round 2 and starting round 3, which is actually right where you folks are in the process. So very, very typical kind of progress and in good shape in comparison to the rest of the state. So here are some of the results that I pulled from the round 2 testing that you folks did last year. And just looking building by building, the darker color at the bottom is the outlets that tested at or above 5, and then the lighter color on top is outlets that tested below 5 parts per billion. So don't require action per this program. So you can see in the elementary school, you had 27 outlets test at or above 5. In the middle school, you had 43 test at or above 5. And then here at the high school, you had 12 outlets test at or above 5.
Ian, does that mean, so at the elementary school, we have 60 separate water sources, like 60 separate type faucets between the bathroom, I guess, do toilets count?
Only places that children could drink from. So
Okay.
there are bathroom faucets that are represented in that sample, and one of the things that was done after these results came back was that those were then posted for hand wash only, and that's totally appropriate. If it was a kitchen, we may need to look at some different remediation, but yes, that is casting a wide net through classroom fixtures, bathroom fixtures, as well as the drinking fountains and the kitchen faucets. So that's a pretty comprehensive look across each of the buildings.
I would never have guessed we had that. I would have said 10.
It's a fun game to
60?
estimate how
Seems
many
like
how many are in
112?
there.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. So just want to give you kind of some comparison. Again, we published a data brief last year, so just sharing a little bit of that data with you kind of so you have that reference point. In terms of number of fixtures tested, about 25,000 were tested at that point, and that number has gone up a little bit. 95% of schools had tested at that point, and 85% of the child care facilities. So looking at the results, 59% of samples, and again, this is across the state, this is not just here in Bow. So about 59% of the samples had no lead detected, 26% had lead levels between 1 and 5, and then 5% had lead levels between 5 and 15 parts per billion, and then 10% had lead levels above 15 parts per billion. In terms of remediation, I highlighted kind of that first box, the 51% for permanently removing from service or posting for no drinking, hand wash only, because I think in the majority of cases, that was the action that you folks took here. And again, for those bathroom faucets, those sort of things, that makes perfect sense. You got a bubbler right outside. Kids shouldn't be drinking from that. So I won't go through all the other kind of numbers, but you can see kind of the range of options for remediation that we saw schools across the state take, from replacing a fixture to using multiple strategies together, replacing a fixture and installing a filter perhaps. So big things that I want to promote before I get to the really good part about the money is if you go to our website, all of the information for all of the schools in the state are on our website at gettheleadoutnh.org. So there's kind of two different views. There's a results data table. You can check which round a facility is on and then go into the data table to see all of the fixtures and all of the values that have come back. And there's also a map view. So if you want to kind of look graphically, and again, that's any school in the state and licensed child cares as well. So if there's things locally you're curious about, or if you've got family in other parts of the state, you want to kind of give them a heads up so they know where to look for this information. Tons of good information there, and definitely want to promote that so that folks know that that information is out there. And if there are questions about that, to follow up with us, and we can help interpret that and hopefully make sense out of it for you. And
Yeah.
then
Oh, I can wait till the end.
last thing I was just going to say, and I mentioned it at the beginning, just really, encouraging you folks to consider applying for this remediation funding. We have $1 million from the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund, so a good pot of money, and really encouraging schools to apply to kind of put that money back in your budget that maybe you didn't anticipate spending on plumbing to use for the other purposes that you folks have here. So that's what I got for you. I appreciate you having me. I don't know if you have time for questions or
Sure, we have time for
Comments or-
questions. If you want to speak, there is a sign-in sheet right up here next to Owen. That'd be great.
Or there's a microphone. They could
And
just.
there's a microphone all the way up in the back.
So Ian, I have a question about, so the testing results. And we had in April one number, and then in July, the number was vastly different. And the only remediation was putting a sign. Why would that happen?
And really, it's hard to speculate without knowing the specifics. Kind of my first guess, just looking at the testing dates, I think one was in April, and then the other one was, I think, in late July.
It was April
So-
break and then summer vacation.
Yeah, so my guess, not knowing, again, how you're using the buildings in the summer, that if something sits stagnant for, a month and a half till the end of July, that you might see those numbers change pretty significantly because of how long water was sitting
They would
in
go
the pipes.
down, though? Some of them, one of them went from 114 to like 4.89.
Yeah, and again, without kind of knowing the specifics or maybe doing some additional sampling, I wouldn't really want to speculate why. We certainly could see some variation. That's a big swing for
Yeah.
sure. But just because of all those variables I outlined, I would hesitate to speculate why that might be.
So essentially, we should just like retest them, see what we're dealing with. Because in that, when you had the graph, the bar graph,
Yeah.
what number did you use, whether it was, so for example, that one? Did you put that in the under 5 because it was 4.89 in July, or did you have it over because in April it was 114?
No, it would have been over because, again, without, remediation, and again, in some circumstances, posting that hand wash only, do not drink is an appropriate solution. But in terms of remediation and in terms of essentially overriding one of those values, we would need to see something more comprehensive, like a fixture replacement or a filter install.
So I have one other question. Well, actually, I have a couple. So with the testing for kids that I know the whole state's supposed to be doing for the lead in the blood, what was the actual, like, percentage of students, like, I mean, percentage of children in New Hampshire that actually get tested? Because I had read that there was a lot of problems getting kids to actually get tested, so.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers off the top of my head. Happy to send you the new Health and Human Services report that, again, just came out, I think, the beginning of this week.
Yeah.
And they certainly talk to that, and they have a lead poisoning prevention team that really digs into all that data. So I'm happy to share that with you.
No, it's interesting, because I know
Yeah.
that they're trying, especially like in Manchester and Nashua and stuff, to really get the information out there for people to get their children tested.
Yeah.
But one other thing, so if I'm understanding correctly, so like, I'll just use our elementary school as an example, right? We'll say we have between kindergarten and first grade, almost 200 kids right there, right? And I would say that those kids are probably not called like strong readers, right? Never mind executive functioning skills for all kids, impulse issues, that maybe a kid could see, don't drink it, but if they have that desire because they're thirsty, they could still wash their hands and drink, right? So this program would pay for us to remediate all of those, like replace those faucets, because that's the first thing to do, right? For anything that's over 5 parts per billion. So even if it's a bathroom sink, to reduce that risk to any children who might not have the impulse control to stop from drinking it, and not also understand the reason why they shouldn't drink it is because it's a neurotoxin that's irreversible. Like, they can't understand that. Not even a high schooler, I think, can understand that.
Yeah, so kind of two layers there, I think, if I'm understanding you correctly. So yes, anything at or above 5 is eligible for this reimbursement grant. And for those, preschool, kindergarten, first grade, maybe second grade settings, certainly we can offer some additional recommendations about, what might be the most appropriate remediation, recognizing that if you have kids who aren't readers, putting a sign up might not be the most effective solution there. So we can certainly have those conversations on a case-by-case basis.
Excellent, thank you. Well, I think also the community might want to weigh in too, so.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. I'll try not to go too far down a rabbit hole here, but I'm in-house counsel with an insurance company for a Canadian conglomerate that owns out-of-business insurance companies. And so we manage the claims and the lawsuits that get filed against these out-of-business insurance companies. And when I started there 20 years ago, we used to have a fair amount of lead cases, and now we have none. And they were always, though, paint. They were always paint or either what I would say is like third world toys. And we didn't ever have any really tied to water. So are water lead cases very prominent where the source of someone having those injuries are tied to actually the water? Because ours were always almost exclusively paint chips.
So I'll speak nationally because that's the data that I've seen, and I'll plug that Health and Human Services report again that just came out. So the numbers that they're citing, and again, this is nationally, not specific to New Hampshire, about 70% of lead poisoning cases are tied to paint. Another 15% is kind of those consumer products, toys, food that are maybe manufactured other places. And then about 15% have been connected back to a water source.
Oh,
So that's kind of the most recent breakdown that I have.
Yeah.
I also read that it could be cumulative, so it might not be just a one-time exposure. You could be exposed again and again and again, and then that actually makes your levels worse, right? So it's hard to prove causation where there might be correlation, right? So like a kid could keep getting exposed to water, but is that the one water? Whereas a paint chip or a toy is very easy to bring somewhere and have it tested and find lead on it versus drank water from how many different sources, how could you prove that it's just that one source that caused the poisoning? No?
Well, I think it is cumulative. I mean, it's not, you're not gonna get it from one paint chip. It's
Well,
eating
no.
paint chips
But the-
is what would, or drinking water,
Right,
that, same thing,
exactly.
yeah.
But any-
Are some of the water testing results, we're talking such a small amount, right? I mean, that has a big impact. I would imagine that's why you get some of the different readings. And, you know, a lot of what we're focusing on these days is actually PFAS or PFOA, I'm sure you're familiar with it. And the EPA, either they're passing or they're trying to pass a standard. I think it's 4 parts per trillion, I believe.
So something's coming on that soon. I
I'm
think.
sure,
That's,
yeah.
that's not my lane though, so
But
I'll stay
I
stay
think-
back here.
But I think what that equates to is 1 drop in 70,000 swimming pools, I think. And so is it something, well, we're talking, I guess I could do the math myself, right? 5 parts per billion would be whatever that same math is, right?
Yeah.
But just as a frame of reference.
Yep.
But I think, Brace, that the point is that it's a limit, right? And they say that there's no safe amount of lead. So if this guy comes in here and says, I will pay for you to replace any bit of something that could have lead, every faucet that has 5 parts per billion and above, you know what, Ian? I'll take your money every day.
If you're suggesting I'm not interested, you're misunderstanding anything I'm talking about. Of course, we want to get rid of, and that's the goal, right? To have it 0%, and
Yep.
not just the water, but the paint and everything. Like let's eradicate it, right? I mean, understood. Great. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Yeah.
Just want to introduce myself. My name is Cindy Clevens. I manage the drinking water engineering section for DES, including the Get the Lid Out program. And I just wanted to acknowledge that I've reached out a few times, both as a DES employee and also as a drinking water member to assist with anything we can for the schools and for both water questions in general.
Excellent. I guess I do have one.
Yes, as well, but also I just want to mention for lead, yes, it is cumulative, it is very small amounts. Water does add to your exposure, and it is irreversible, so it stays in the body if you don't eliminate it. So pain, even a very small step is enough to expose.
Well, and if I recall correctly, if you're buying or selling a house, that's even on the forms, is my recollection of when you're, you know, is your house pre-1978 or does it have lead paint or something? But I guess I'm sorry, I have to do one more question. I thought the data that I saw on the website suggested that we're not unique, though, where our 3 schools don't stand out. I mean, obviously, we want to eradicate it, but we don't have a problem any greater or smaller than the typical schools around here. Is that fair?
No, I would say my impression, looking at your schools, looking at your data, pretty typical for what we're seeing across the state. And again, I think one of those large driving factors is just when the buildings were constructed. So I would say that's probably the biggest commonality across the state, you know, rather than, you know, any other geographic kind of factors we might see.
Yeah, excellent.
Sorry, I would like to also point out one more thing for people that are here, but also people online, that the Bow Drinking Water Committee has very generously offered they are going to get back to us on a date where the community can come and pick up sample bottles and test their water at home to see if there is elevated levels of lead. It will cost, unfortunately, we don't have the grant for that, but it will cost $15 for that testing. But then you can also know if you have an issue at home as well, and why not, right? So thank you very much to the Bow Drinking Water Committee and for Cindy Clevens. Thank you, Tom.
Ian, I just had because that's what I do, I have a detailed question about the grant.
Yeah.
If we've done, and I just kind of found out about this from our facilities director, if we did some remediation, replace some faucets pre-grant being, so January 18th, the grant comes out. If we did some stuff before January 18th, is that okay?
Yeah, the
Okay.
grant is actually retroactive back to work that's been done around this testing
Okay.
requirement or program back to 2016.
Okay,
So-
and then if we hire someone, because it's obviously, as you saw, I mean, it's several locations and things like that. If we hire someone to do it, does their labor also be reimbursed? Okay. great.
Correct. Yep. Parts, labor. Send me your receipts.
I'll give a plug out there. If you guys have probably seen the movie Dark Waters or Deep Waters. Have you seen that? If you're interested in PFAS or PFOA, like if that's important to you, you should watch that movie. It's really, I don't know how factually accurate it is, but it's really fascinating about West Virginia and some water sources and kind of the development of the start really of PFOA kind of litigation and identification of it as a contaminant. It's really an interesting movie. Thank you guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Public comment. Anyone have any public comments? This is
questions?
okay, or questions?
If I could, I just ask, I know it's behind you, but if you could go to the mic so that you could be heard for people who are listening via live stream.
Yeah, 1 second before you start. If anyone was here to talk about the water and wants to leave, you can. Don't feel like obligated to stay for any part. If anyone wants to stay, leave at any time. This is actually a big crowd for one of our meetings with 12 people.
Is this a question for Ian?
No, this is not water related.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, I'm gonna try to keep this as brief as I can.
I'm sorry, can you just hold 1 second?
Yep, sure.
Connor, can you turn that mic on?
Am I not being loud enough? Sorry. I'm short, I gotta sit on my toes a bit. All right, I just wrote something out. It's easier for me than trying to talk normally. So, good evening. I want to thank the members of the school board for hearing my concerns, as well as the members of the public and faculty for their time, consideration, and being involved in our schools. Just for a brief introduction, my name is Emily Scull. My daughter Sierra is a freshman at Bow High School, and our family has lived in Bow since 2018. During our time in Bow, my daughter has been actively involved in multiple sports through Bow Athletic Club, Bow Soccer Club, Bow Middle School, and now Bow High School, as well as numerous other local private athletic organizations, primarily travel softball. The concern I'd like to draw your attention to, and I messaged some of you previously about, is what I feel to be a systemic issue with the athletic uniforms for female athletes in our school. While my being here tonight was triggered by my daughter coming to me with an issue with the new uniforms that were ordered for the softball team, this is truly a widespread concern that, to my knowledge, affects at least the girls' soccer teams, field hockey teams, basketball teams, as well as softball team at both the middle and high school level. And actually just yesterday, another parent told me about cross-country uniforms as well, having the same problem. There is a regular problem with how the sizes of female athletic uniforms are ordered. While there is an occasional need for a larger size to be ordered, and the school always handles those situations appropriately and obtains the needed size, on the other end of the spectrum, there are regularly a large group of girls who end up having to use hair elastics, safety pins, or other forms of alterations to their uniform, in particular the bottoms or shorts, just to keep them on their waist. No soccer player should have to slow down when running for a ball because she's afraid the hair elastic holding up her shorts is going to fall out. No basketball player should ever be afraid of feeling the pop as the safety pin holding her shorts up opens and stabs her in the side. No softball player should have to suffer the indignity and embarrassment of having to adjust her pants after every play, especially in an anatomical area that, to be frank and keep this thing polite, males just don't deal with. It's causing her pain and discomfort, all because she's wearing ill-fitting pants. In the past 2 years alone, I've heard comments from other parents, coaches, and our own Bow High School athletic director, such as, "You get what you get, suck it up, just deal with it, and just be happy you got uniforms." These comments have been directed at both parents and student athletes who dare make a complaint about this very legitimate concern. A baggy shirt may be something that a player can just deal with, but having shorts that fall down while playing is not. Having pants that cause you discomfort with movement that required by your sport is not. Our student athletes deserve better. Our daughters deserve better. If parents had the opportunity to purchase additional uniform bottoms or players could provide their own, we can ensure all of our athletes can compete with confidence. Another common issue for all athletes and their families are the busy schedules they live by and how they can impact their ability to maintain appropriate uniforms for a team. I know of many athletes who have shown up to a game in a dirty uniform because they did not have time to wash them between back-to-back game days. This is especially apparent in sports like softball, where the necessity of running, sliding, and diving ends up with pants covered in dirt, clay, and grass. If parents had opportunities to purchase additional pairs of uniform bottoms or provide their own, we can ease the day-to-day burden on families and ensure our athletes are presentable and representing the school the best way possible. I understand the faculty members work hard to ensure a fair and equitable situation for all student athletes, with budgets and rotations as to which team gets new uniforms which years. But in many situations, the best efforts still fall short simply due to circumstance. The school has no way of knowing what sizes will be needed for future teams, so I understand that in some ways this may seem like an unwinnable situation to them. That's where I argue that we as parents should be able to pick up the slack where the school's best laid plans fail. If parents are allowed to purchase additional uniform bottoms from the same supplier the school got them, or if the school chose to order neutral bottoms from a reputable company which could be purchased online, there would be no concern as to the uniforms not being identical. The student athletes would be able to compete with confidence in appropriately fitting attire. Parents could purchase additional sets to make life easier for themselves by decreasing the number of times laundry needs to be done in the same week, as many high school sports have upwards of 3 games per week. Lastly, the school would still be in full compliance with all NHIAA, all National Federation of State High School Association rules, as well as all Title IX rules, without having to expand their budget or their time in dealing with uniforms. And if anyone can point me in the direction of other organizations with rules the school needs to follow regarding uniforms, please do so. I have researched all of these. After seeing and hearing about this for several years across several sports, to me this seems like a simple problem with a simple solution for the softball team, as they had new uniforms ordered this year. Unfortunately, as so commonly happens with team uniforms, there were only 2 size smalls ordered for a team of 16 girls, and we believe about 20 pairs of uniforms that were ordered. The girls were told, well, if you can fit into a small, you can fit into a medium. I attempted to solve the issue for all parties involved in trying to make everyone's life easier. I reached out to Bryan Team Sales, which is the primary company which Bo orders athletic uniforms from. They confirmed for me that they did order softball pants, and placing an additional order of the identical design would be possible, but they were unwilling to do so without the approval of the Bo athletic director, as they do not want to damage their professional relationship with the Bo school district. I left my information with them, expecting a call back asking how many and what sizes we would like to order once they received authorization. Instead, I received a call directly from Mike, who told me in no uncertain terms we were not permitted to purchase additional uniform pants, and the girls just need to deal with it because the uniforms provided are, quote, serviceable. He stated the school needs to control the uniforms for the team and that they provide all game essential equipment. I don't know about you, but my daughter has never once played for any sport of any team that provided all game essential equipment, including but not limited to shirts, pants, socks, belts, sports bras, cleats, gloves, helmets, face masks, and a litany of other protective and game essential gear. If parents are required to provide all other game essential equipment, why are we not allowed to provide appropriately sized pants? The school is obligated to provide what they consider a serviceable set of uniforms for the team to play, and they have fulfilled that obligation. So why are the school and the athletic director now standing in the way of allowing parents to make up the difference between where the school provides and what the players need to perform their best on the field? Again, I understand the limitations the school may have. I'm asking to fill in the difference myself. I have been told that after I initially brought this complaint to the school board, the school changed their tune and now are willing to order extra size small pants for the girls. But frankly, this is not just a softball issue. This is an issue affecting female athletes across multiple sports. One of the SAU 67 core values is care for each person every day, and specifically cites people cannot learn if they are hungry, anxious, or worried about other things. I argue this applies to athletics as well as academics, and athletes cannot learn and focus on their sports if they are worried about their shorts falling down or how much their pants hurt. The Bow High School Athletic Handbook states, Bow VHS athletic programs will strive to be competitive, yet stress the importance of good sportsmanship and lifelong lessons learned through athletics. The only lesson this is teaching our girls is to accept less than they desire, to not think out of the box for creative solutions to problems, and to not bring forward complaints to superiors unless you want to be publicly called out as someone who is causing a problem. Their concerns were ignored and dismissed without ever truly being heard out. And it doesn't exactly instill much confidence when our students are snapped at by authority figures to be quiet and stop complaining, then have it followed up with, come forward if you have a problem. Being told by authority figures, nothing is going to change, just deal with it, and then in the same breath being told, but you can come to us if something is wrong. That doesn't foster much of a positive, trusting relationship between students and faculty. Also, I don't know of many teenage girls who would feel comfortable getting up in front of an entire team, 2 coaches, and a male athletic director to discuss the discomfort and pain in her crotch from the pants she has. Several girls on the team have expressed fear of getting in trouble, both at school and on the team if they say anything. fear of reprisals by losing out on playing time if they complain, even fear of reaction of their teammates if they speak up. My daughter tried to bring this issue forward by creating a petition within the softball team to bring to the coach to show team support for the issue with the pants. Over half the team signed it in one morning. Until she was loudly confronted by an upperclassman teammate who did not agree and demanded she turn it over, which resulted in a faculty member getting involved. I am not a 14-year-old freshman who is still learning to stand up for herself. It is my job as a parent and as a mother to set an example for my daughter on how to properly and appropriately stand up for herself and others, especially against authority figures. To summarize, I'm not asking for money or funding of any kind. I'm not asking for the faculty's additional time or effort. I am simply asking to be allowed as a parent to ensure my child has appropriately fitting attire when she participates in school athletic activities. I have two specific requests, one immediate, one long-term. My immediate request is I am asking the school allow Brine Team Sales to sell uniform bottoms to parents who wish to privately purchase additional pairs or alternate sizes. One phone call of less than 5 minutes, and this entire situation will be solved. Or with specific regards to the softball team, allow them to return to the old uniform pants from last year or another solid neutral color that is easily purchased and most girls already own. The pants that were purchased with the old uniforms were higher quality of a reputable brand, which additional pairs or other sizes could be purchased on Amazon. The new ones are the custom design that we are not allowed to purchase. In the long term, I believe this is a fundamental issue that needs to be made when ordering athletic uniforms. Uniform bottoms, whether they be shorts, skirts, or pants, should be ordered with the ability of students and parents to purchase additional pairs either online or through a supplier such as Brine. In the alternative, if the school is insisting on being the only purchaser of specific apparel to control over the uniforms, I ask they include additional uniform bottoms at the online team store, which is opened at the beginning of every sports season and made available to every team. Contrary to how this seems to be addressed by the faculty, this is not just a few girls complaining that they think their uniforms are ugly. This is a systemic issue which has gone on for far too long, with far too many girls being told to just deal with it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Marcy, any comment, I guess, or?
So Mike is here and can speak to some of those, the points that were brought up. And there's a lot more information to this specific situation that we would need to talk about in non-public. But in terms of the sizes, it wasn't Mike who asked to purchase the additional 2 smalls. I asked Mike to do that because the initial complaint was that the softball pants were too big. So we ordered 2 more small sizes. We checked in with area school districts to see is this something that they do in terms of their practice to allow families to contact their vendors directly, and they do not. The vendors there's a reason for that, right? If you think of all the athletes that we have in the 30+ different sports, it would be a nightmare for vendors. So that's really why they deferred the family back to the school district. So I've spoken with a number of the players. I have a meeting with a couple of the players, different players on Friday, but I can give you more information in non-public.
Okay. Is this about the same thing, or is this something different? Okay. Anyone have anything else to add? I guess one thing I would add is this is, I would say, the opposite of anything we've ever heard. And what I mean by that is we get a lot of pressure to buy more things, like let's say cleats or whatever, but never the opposite, which is to buy less. And the sports budget's big. I mean, it's like, I want to say, I don't know, is it $500,000 maybe in that ballpark? 600,000. And so, because of the uniforms are very expensive, when you get away, and listen, I've got a baseball player for a son. I've got a daughter that's played every sport under the sun, and including virtually every sport you mentioned. And frankly, it's never been a problem for me or my daughter. Have we ever sewed the pants or done things or laughed when they came home and looked at them and they figured it out in my experience. But it's those other sports, a football jersey is like $200 or something, or maybe even more. Like some of the, where would we cut that off, I guess, is one of the questions. But I'm not here to solve the answer. I definitely have a lot of experience with it, and certainly, well, us three have boys on the varsity basketball team. So.
Well, I've experienced that myself, playing sports as a teenager, so I'm definitely sympathetic to that plight, but I do understand that there's some challenges too, so I think that this might not be something we can come up with an answer with tonight, but maybe discuss it more and see what we can do, because that, to me, just makes complete sense. I don't want any of our girl students to feel like they're less than, or we do care about every student every day. And so there's got to be something that we can figure out, right?
I would just end with that, you know, one of the challenges with female athletes, I have a female athlete here, I was one, right, and I get it, they've come a long, long way, I think we need to acknowledge that, they're not unisex anymore, but they're not tailored, right? They're size, we don't order extra small, frankly, they're size small, medium, large, and so women know that medium covers what, sizes 4 to 6, right? So it's a wide range of sizes that we're expected to cover, right? And so when the comment about, well, if you can wear a small, you can probably wear a medium is generally true, right? But where there's an issue with the uniforms, and in this case we asked this, come and show us. I offered for them to come and show me as well. I feel like I can make a fair estimation of like, no, those are really too big, or I think they're acceptable. So we're totally willing to work with families where a change needs to be made. We don't look back at the team who's coming up to say, oh, you know, I think we're going to need these sizes. I don't think you want us doing that. The range of sizes and the number of each size that we've ordered over the last several years has remained the same. But where we do need to make adjustments, we've been able to.
Sorry, I just had a quick question about this issue. Why couldn't you just poll the athletes before you're ordering the uniforms? Is that too difficult to do, or that
Yeah,
just
it's
seems like an
way in
easy
advance.
solution?
It's the timing. It's way in advance. You have to order uniforms. Like even, I bet your second order you bought now, I bet takes 6 weeks or something, I bet.
It's close. I think that the order that we just put in could take 3 to 4 weeks to come in. I think the issue also, one of the issues, we use one vendor primarily, but they're variable, right? So as an example, we had middle school uniforms to come in this year that were way off, right? The middle school boys basketball team, we recognized it.
Were the sizes what you expected, but the sizes were way, like a medium, you expected a medium to be this size, and the medium comes and it's like this size?
Yes, I mean, Jenna can speak to it, I think, probably better, but yeah, they were way off. And so the vendor, in that case, we called the vendor came in and made it right. So where we can, we try to make those fixes. I think, in general, people know that they're not gonna be tailored to what they like, what they wear in everyday wear. And they might be a little big. You see, if you watch a basketball game or a soccer game, some girls roll the shorts, some girls tie the drawstring, they all wear them a little bit differently, and that's a real challenge in terms of trying to fit when you're ordering from a small, medium, or large. A lot of these girls have also played travel sports, and those uniforms are completely different than what we're dealing with here.
We also don't replace uniforms every year. I think they're on a 5-year rotation, so it would be very hard to predict 5 years out what sizes people might need. So that's why it would be hard to try to order based on size as well. 'Cause we just
And
do it every year.
one thing that I think Bryce and Marcy, so I didn't know this myself, so I asked when we got your letter. And like the uniform has to be, for them to go out, has to be the uniform, right? Like that's what you guys said, like you can't,
They have to have the same uniform.
the exact same uniform. So that kind of makes it tricky too, because for me, I was just thinking, well, just get a pair of, another pair of pants that match close enough, but I guess there are all these like really tough rules that you have to follow.
okay? Are you okay? Oh, you're moving in a, you're moving in an odd way. All right, sorry, go ahead.
No worries. I just wanted to make a comment on a few things that I'd heard. First of all, the old uniform pants, brand name, Mizuno brand name softball pants, those are the previous uniforms years. Those are a very reputable brand, which has been around for a long time. I'm assuming they're very easily accessible to be ordered through Brine. And they are also the exact same brand that primarily you see used in most travel ball situations. So just to answer what Marcy had said about how travel ball is different, well, the old uniforms were the same brand as travel ball uniforms.
But Mike, you're talking about style, right? Not Mizuno. Yeah, Mizuno exists. You can get all sorts, but you can't get necessarily style ABC. Or is it? That's what you're saying, I think, right? Is that
Mike,
makes sense?
Mike should probably go to a microphone so that people at home can hear him.
One of the big conversations while Mike comes over that you probably hear nationally, and we've talked about here too, is the idea that women or young women are wearing white uniforms. I think this was a big step in the right direction. Those bottoms are navy blue. The old uniforms were white. So I'm happy about this change for that reason.
I think, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's just a couple of comments I wanted to make about that. Also, with what Melanie said about how can't you just wear something similar? Yes, you have to follow the exact rules per the NHIA policy is to have identical uniforms. But if they had a more, let's say neutral, like everyone has navy blue, then anybody can get any brand or any comfort size that works best for their body type. And everyone could get what they wanted. The Mizuno pants that they had last year, many players went online and ordered additional pairs because they were white with just a simple blue seam down the side, which you can order from that store on Amazon even. And just kind of like I said, just to add the point to the fact that there are other options rather than getting a customed design of something in an unknown brand that doesn't seem to fit most of the girls very well and causes other problems. It's just more of a, I just think that it caused more problems than it needed to be in that case. It was more of a, I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this. That's why I wrote something down earlier, because I'm not good on the spot. Yeah, like I said, I feel like there was a lot more options, and it's something that the girls have tried to speak out with. And yes, several of the girls have a meeting with Marcy scheduled for tomorrow to discuss the issue. But it's just more of a, instead of trying to work towards finding a solution, the girls have been told to deal with it. And that is where I think the biggest problem lies.
Okay, I mean, I'm not sure that I use the word deal with it, or the phrase, but the other issue with, or concern, I guess, with purchasing your own stuff, is that not everybody can purchase their own stuff. And education-based athletics is based on equality, and we want to make sure that everybody has that same chance to get multiple pairs of pants or your own fit. But what are we going to do with the ones that can't do that? Then we just created an additional challenge for us, I think, as well.
Would it some option like the team doing fundraising to be able to purchase new things for everybody? So everybody on the team could have an additional pair? Would that be considered an acceptable opportunity?
It could be considered, fundraising doesn't typically buy uniforms. Like our game, like, and you mentioned it earlier, our game apparel, for all teams, the things that you need to participate in the game. So we can exclude warm-ups and shooting shirts and all the other stuff that some of these other things will get fundraised or used booster funds for. The stuff that's used and required for a game uniform is purchased through budget. And that's basically been my line, I think, or my stance through the whole thing.
Just throwing out ideas, trying to find a solution, that's all.
Sure.
But I think, Mike, that all schools are like that, aren't they? I mean, what we do is not unique, is it? And I'm not saying you've come up with a potential solution.
And I'll use Brian's for many things. Not every set of uniform comes from them. But they also deal with most of the schools in the capital, really in central New Hampshire. So he is, Bobby is pretty good at, well, maybe we missed some, at ordering a set of uniforms. Like I didn't say I need this many. We talked about back and forth, let's slide one over here. But because he orders for so many teams, he has a pretty good idea about what sizes would fit the need of most of that team without knowing exactly who's going to be on it. In general, the schools will just order a in-between set just to try to fit as many people as we can. But without knowing who is coming, it's difficult.
Yeah, I understand that. I was thinking more of like, if you look at the uniforms every year that are not taken, because obviously there's surplus uniforms. I'm assuming you ordered 20 or so sets for a team of 16 girls. If every single set of uniforms across every single sport for every single group of girls has only larges and extra larges left over because the girls who should have extra smalls but don't get ordered extra smalls end up in mediums, and the girls who should have smalls but don't get those end up in larges, and you only routinely have larges and extra larges left over, I'm just thinking that's something that should be looked at as an option of maybe try shifting it down one of them, just a smaller size. Because like I said, this is not a softball issue, this is a soccer, basketball.
Sure.
There was numerous soccer girls playing soccer and basketball this year holding their shorts up with hair ties.
Yeah, and I have the numbers for those uniforms as well. Both sets of those were Under Armour, so they may run bigger. You know, and we actually had a problem with the soccer uniforms as well, with, you know, with the quality. They had, the factory had to actually replace the whole entire set of shorts. It's difficult to get the right mix. There's no easy way, especially if they need to fit for 4 teams, you know, for 4 years.
There's also the option of only buying the uniform tops. For instance, the middle school does not provide bottoms for the softball team. So telling everyone they have to have the same color shorts, same color pants, same color shorts, that's as far as they go. That would still comply with NHIA regulations.
But there again, we'd be asking parents to purchase the bottoms, and I think that's part of what Mike was saying, is not, we can't just make the assumption that everyone can do that.
I always
understand-
told Marcy, though, that so essentially, I bought, so I'm the softball assistant coach for the middle school, and I bought a student her stuff, and, you know, nobody knows, but when I dropped it off at the school, I was told that there's funding, they have funds. Somebody told me, like, why did you do that? There's funds for that. No, and I'm just asking, I'm just trying to see if there's another kind of
I
solution.
think wherever we need to help a family, we do our best to do that, but I think we have this budgeted for, right? We have a rotation and a schedule of ordering uniforms. So in this instance, and we'll talk about it more later, the first go-to was the coaches, right? I trust our coaches, they have experience in the sport, to say, these are unacceptable, or we really need a couple of smalls, or we need an extra large to come in as soon as possible. We didn't get that here. We got, these uniforms are acceptable, they're functional. We certainly safety's first, right? If they're not gonna be safe, then we can't wear them. Function, can you properly function in them? And what we've been told so far by the coaches is yes.
Go ahead, Bill.
Hi, my name is Bill Skull. Her husband, Sarah, is also my daughter. A couple things. First, we're talking about the fact that we don't want parents to have to spend any money or whatnot. But you also charge them a fee just to play the sport. So we're worried about whether a parent is going to spend the extra $40 to $50 to get a pair of pants that properly fit. But we're also charging, what is it, $100 some odd dollars just to be able to play the sport. The other thing with this that is part of the background of things that you said is one of the first things we were told is we're not going to order you pants just because you prefer a different size. Along that same line, the school ordered yellow belts for these pants. The girls said, we don't like the yellow belts, we want to wear the blue belts. And instead of ordering, I understand that there were some blue belts that needed to be ordered, but instead of ensuring that they are all the exact same, because one blue is not the same blue, it was, who has a blue belt? Oh, everyone but 3? Okay, we've only got to order 3 blue belts then. So if it is fine for the girls to have a preference in the belt, why is it not fine for a preference in the pant? Because if we're saying your preference doesn't matter, then why does it matter for one part of the uniform but not the other?
Were ordered as part of the uniform, and they didn't match the gold. The gold belt doesn't match the gold of the uniform, and quite frankly, didn't look very good, and I certainly agreed with that. So the blue belts, many of them had blue belts, whether it was from last year or from a different team or whatever it was. The additional belts that I came up with were not ordered. They were part of last year's belts. So there was no new belts ordered. It was a preference. It looked better. The gold didn't match, and it wasn't going to be a good look, and the socks, quite frankly, I didn't think would match either, but they for some reason, are much better or much closer to the stripes than the belts were. So the belts weren't, I didn't order new belts, I had them downstairs from last year.
Okay, so they were from previous stock.
Correct.
Okay, so if that is allowed to be a preference call, why is it not a preference that I would like my daughter to wear a pair of pants that fits, and she would like to as well?
All right, we appreciate all the comments. We're going to move on at this point to the rest of the agenda. We'll be obviously back in touch with you folks. You know, in terms of setting an example for your daughter, you've done it, right? You came to the highest folks you could to push this issue. And, you know, whatever way it goes, you can, you know, look your daughter in the face and let her know that you tried as hard as you could. And we'll talk about it more amongst ourselves, and, you know, like I said, we'll get back to you in the future, but appreciate all the time and effort you put into it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Judith Attori, and I kind of wanted to change the subject to get to academics a little bit. I'm aware that during the COVID years, the test scores went down, and I believe they're on an upward trend. And I'm wondering if we have reached pre-COVID levels yet, and if there's anything in place to compare those and make sure that we're helping students who aren't up to those pre-COVID levels yet. Thank you.
It's a great question that we'll kick over to Owen.
I'm not sure what level you're looking at, but if you're looking at the elementary school, I can guarantee you they're actually above pre-COVID years. They've really done quite well with that. At the middle school, Adam's right here, but I just kind of thinking off the cuff without looking at any data on my laptop, they're doing really well as well. They have 2 new programs in place for math and reading, so those have been put in, and they've done well with them. So, and Adam, I don't know if you have any specifics.
And I would add to that, so all the schools got COVID relief funds, significant money for that, and we put that money into these programs, which are unbelievably expensive. I can't believe how expensive they are. But while a lot of other schools, you know, built gymnasiums and did exciting stuff, I think at the time we're like, really, we're going to spend all this money on these programs? But I think we're really seeing the benefits of that now, as a result of spending that money towards those programs. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've even, if Lori were here, would probably tell you, we've created some problems with, you know, kind of how far kids have come. I would say specifically in math, like what are we going to do with all of these students who are kind of way above we expected? It created a nice problem at the middle school.
Adam, I just got a text from a couple different people that are watching online, and they can't hear anybody who's not on a microphone. I'm sorry. Just because you're giving some good news, I'm sure they would like to hear it.
So we have seen a good increase in math in particular. We didn't experience the same level of dip in the ELA numbers. ELA numbers, the language arts, English language arts, they were pretty solid right through COVID. And the only area we really saw a dip was math. And what we've seen is with the implementation of the Bridges program in 5th grade and then the Open Up program in grades 6, 7, and 8, that really well scaffolded instructional process the kids worked through and continue to work through is paying a lot of dividends, and we're seeing the numbers kind of really increase. And I'm excited to see the returns this year. Hopefully, that good?
Sounds good. Is that sufficient? Yeah, okay, sure. Moving right along, superintendent report or anything to add to your report?
I don't have anything to add, just in terms of our applicant searches, that we've had some really nice responses and great pools, so I'm excited about that.
Any questions for Marcy?
Yeah, I have one question. So with the search committee for the assistant principal, has that already been formed?
It is still in process.
Okay. And are we going to have a school board member on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to add congratulations, Matt. Because I think this is the first board meeting we're gonna, yeah. So congrats.
Marcy, maybe I should talk to it, but the email we received from Dunbarton today to start that discussion, because that is kind
Sure.
of in your wheelhouse, that is not in your report
Right.
from Clem?
Yep.
Yeah.
If you want me to start and you can fill in, or vice versa? Okay. So we had a Dunbarton parents come to the Dunbarton board meeting last night to share their desire for their next year 6th grade student to be able to try out for sports at Bow Memorial. When we learned about this, we were a little surprised. It sounded unusual to us, but come to find out that opportunity, they have that opportunity in theater. We didn't realize that we had some Dunbarton students participating in theater at Bow Memorial, but apparently we do. And so they thought, since that's happening, would we be willing to extend the offer to sports as well? We talked about some of the challenges, their different schedules, away games, the transportation piece.
Wait, this is for a 6th grader? So just
That's
track
why.
and field? They don't.
Field hockey.
Oh, they do field hockey, okay.
No,
Oh.
they want to do field. They
No,
want
no,
to.
no,
do-
I know, 6th graders aren't typically,
Sixth
Right.
grade has been opened up in field hockey
Okay.
at the middle
Sorry,
school.
that's-
Yep. And track and cross-country, like you
yep,
said.
okay.
So the board there listened and said that they would bring it to the Bow board for the Bow board to consider.
So, yeah, I think we definitely are not in a position to make a determination on that tonight. I mean, Dunbarton 6th grade is not part of our SAU agreement. They're part of the Dunbarton Elementary School. And so that would be a unique situation if we were to allow that. And if we allow that, then I would think, have to allow it for cross-country and all the other sports as well. So I think there's a lot to unpack there, including the fact that the kids practice right after school. So I don't know how those Dunbarton kids would get to the school, for example.
Yeah, I think that timing actually does work, just because of when Dunbarton gets out and when the middle school gets out. So as an example, field hockey, they can't get down to the field until, if they're hustling, they'll get there by 3:30. But it's usually between 3:30 and 3:40. So that piece, I think, works, but parents would have to, no one is anticipating a separate bus to come from Dunbarton to bring students over to play in a sport, so it would be parent transportation.
I would think probably, to me, the biggest downside, if we were to allow that, is the impact on our kids, on a Bow kid. So say, take out Adam's cross-country team, 7 runners score and would be the team runners. Potentially a Bow student would not be one of those 7, and a Dunbarton student would replace them for that. There is a downside for Bow students, which is sort of our calling. At the same time, it's not like that student's from Bedford and we're just training them to get better. At the same time, if the goal is to, win state championships, then why wouldn't we want to give the Dunbarton kids as good an opportunity as the Bow kids? So, I don't know, I think there's a lot to unpack there, and I'm not positive how if we'd have to amend the area agreement to do that, or who knows what, I think there's a lot there to figure out. But anyway, yeah. Did you have something to say, Melanie?
No, I think you
Oh,
covered it.
okay.
Thank you.
Anything else with Marcy? No? Moving on, Dwayne?
Sure. So I just want to just touch on something that I'm hoping to kind of keep you updated on, I think, in each of my reports as we kind of go through the rest of the year and into the summer, and then, you know, at the beginning of next school year. I think with what happened at the annual meeting, with the number of projects that were approved at the meeting and the ongoing large project that we have at the elementary school, I think this is going to be as busy a summer, I think, facility-wise, that maybe we've ever had, or at least that I can remember having. Just the project itself is a big deal, and this summer is going to really be the start of the inside of the building part of that project. I know we've done work at the admin area, and if you go by the elementary school, that addition, every time I drive by it, I think, that addition is really big, much bigger than I thought it was. But putting a sprinkler into that building, essentially, we're going to touch every single area of that building. All the ceiling tiles are coming down, new lighting, a bunch of bathroom renovations, new nurse area. I mean, a lot of inside the building. So there's going to be a lot of activity over there that we're going to be a part of in terms of meetings and things like that. And then in addition to that, I just kind of based on the annual meeting, just in my report, just put a laundry list of things that we're trying to do and that we're going to try to, you know, accomplish. And some of those things have to be kind of scaled and done in conjunction with the elementary school project. So for example, we're really excited, we're going to redo that main parking lot at the elementary school. The voters supported that. That's going to be great. We're not going to do that over the summer though, because all the subs are going to be parking in that parking lot. So we're not going to, that's going to be something that's probably going to happen after the start of the school year. So stuff like that, and I think Dave and Mike in our facilities, they're, you know, I keep throwing stuff at them and ask back, like, if this is too much, you know, let me know. And so far they've been great, and it's a lot of stuff, but it's all exciting, I think. So, you know, we're going to be very, very busy this summer and a lot of activity. I'm really excited about what's happening at the Memorial School. Just to touch on, you know, a couple things over there. I mean, some stuff that we've been talking about doing for a long time, those eighth grade bathrooms, you know, relocating where that well is. That well would never get approved in the location it's in now. We're in that permitting process. And then in conjunction with that, replacing the holding tank and things is just some long overdue stuff. So very exciting.
Nice. Excellent. Any questions for Dwayne?
Dwayne, I have a couple.
Yeah.
So one thing that I saw, I hope that everybody was able to download the agenda, because it makes this meeting so much easier to follow when you have that. If not, in the future, please feel free to do that. So with the water fixture replacements part, so I just wanted to make sure, so is that a plan for just BES? Is that a plan for all?
Yeah, all buildings. Yeah,
All buildings, 5 parts per billion and above for lead?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
great.
we're probably gonna have to, I mean, it's a number of locations, and our facilities department is like 2.5 people, so it's, you know, and they're doing a bunch of other stuff, so that was the genesis of my question. We're probably gonna hire that out. A lot of the stuff at the elementary school is in the renovation project. So, you know, there's, the multi-person bathrooms on the first and second floor, there's 4 of them. All those fixtures are brand new. That was always in the project. Some standalone bathrooms are also in the project. We've added, you know, redoing some cabinet work and all the sinks and fixtures in the 91. That's 8 classrooms, so that's 8 more fixtures. So a lot of those are part of the renovation.
All the classroom ones too?
Yeah, anything that's high. yeah.
Okay, and when we have so another thing so you guys just learned from that presentation, so if we have some old copper piping, there could be lead in the solder between them, so I just wanted to know. And the test to find out if it's lead is really simple, it's just like a scratch test or,
Yeah, that came up in our construction meeting, so that's being done when the roofs come down, when the ceilings come down. They're gonna test all of that. too.
oh, great. How much of the percentage of the pipes do you think will be exposed during this whole process?
Pretty much all of them.
Really?
Oh, yeah, they're gonna do a lot. We're gonna have, so, the company that we had come in and do the pre-construction asbestos testing in that building, they're gonna do that. So that's already lined up and ready to go.
Oh, that's awesome. So are we just replacing everything or just first testing
So
for
we'll
lead?
test first, yeah.
Test first?
Yeah, it's because our understanding is the piping in that building is not lead pipe. So, but we're gonna test all the joints and, so they do this all the time and
Mhm.
yeah, so they're gonna do it. And if we get something back, that falls under the grant as well, so.
And we'll
take
just
advantage of that.
replace it with, what would,
PVC, plastic, it'll be replaced with.
which is the issue with?
And we did that, we
microplastic?
already did that at the memorial school, when we did the memorial school renovation in '05, a lot of the domestic piping was replaced then with plastic and new joints and everything.
Okay, awesome.
yeah.
That's great to know.
We also asked them to separate out any cost for any of the fixtures or faucet replacements from the project so that we can submit for reimbursement for those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that had been my question.
So in our owners meeting.
They loved it.
Yeah, in our owners meeting, Marcy brought that up, that was, because I think sometimes that, in a $12 million construction project, that sink fixture just gets in the wash, right? It's just part of the plumbing, submittal from the sub that goes to the GC and then comes to us. So that comes up a lot like, hey, that's gotta be separated. And I just need it because it's just gonna go in. I mean, we've actually got our first couple invoices that we're gonna submit in the grant, because I didn't know that our maintenance guys took it upon themselves in the Family and Consumer Science classroom at Bow High School. That was 4 of those 12. They just wanted Jill to have new fixtures, so they did it over break, February break. That was my other question. So they did it over February break, and Arjux just installed it. So they gave me that invoice today. They're like, oh, you should probably have this. And so we'll be submitting that. That'll be our trial balloon for
Nice.
first one.
That's awesome. That's great news.
Anyone else? No? Jessica, anything to add to your report?
I don't think I have anything to add per se. I just wanted to kind of emphasize the, one block that I kind of put in here about team meetings, and that it, coming into this role, wanting to continue the work that Marcy had been doing about making sure that we're, fully staffed and working towards aligning our programs. We have a coordinator in each building, and so we've continued to do that, but it's been really great to see how each of those buildings operate as unique spaces and how they target sort of their conversations with families to be appropriate to the developmental age of kids, and that there's a really special thing that happens in a team that also flows with the alignment of our practices. So it's been really nice to be involved in a lot of those team meetings and sitting with the different coordinators and seeing how they like to facilitate and run meetings and just getting to know all of the teams. So I wanted to share that with the board and kind of the public, just to get a sense that, someone who maybe is identified when they're in elementary school and continues to stay identified through their entire experience and their education are going to have different experiences in each building, but that's a special experience and something that should be kind of embraced in the ability to, get to know new people, build those relationships, and work to make sure that each kid's unique needs are being met by a vast team of people who get to know them over the course of their time here in Bow. So I just wanted to kind of share that additional piece to my report.
It's really, I guess, with Jen Rain no longer here, I guess I'm the old guard, but I would, if Jen were here, she would say the same thing. I mean, the special services and the work that between you and Marcy have done, it's so different than when I came on the board just 7 years ago. It's in a good way. It's incredible the work you guys have been doing. I think it's been great. Any questions for Jessica? No? Owen, anything to add to your report?
A little bit. I just wanted to talk a little bit further about that meeting that Marcy and I had with the New Hampshire Auto Dealers Association. If you can just take one and pass the rest of them. So it kind of came about with our work with Future Ready and thinking about options for students as they graduate high school. And Bow, in communities like Bow, you often think about four-year colleges and things like that for students. But what the Auto Dealers Association was able to do, they came in and we talked to them about, the World Economic Forum, the 10 skills that new hires need. And we showed them that, and we just said, what do you need from high school graduates who come into the workforce right out of high school? And it was pretty simple. Show up. If you're not going to show up, communicate and be dedicated to our business and be dedicated to constantly learning. And then they slid across the table salaries that people can earn in auto dealerships. And Marcy and I were just honestly blown away that you can go get a 2-year degree from a community college and out of the gate make $82,000 a year as an auto technician. And to kind of put that in perspective, a lot of your teachers that have master's degrees aren't making that. So it's really awesome to see that those options exist for students. So in that I passed out, you can just kind of see what they have to offer for graduates and what the community college system has to offer. Just a couple other things really quickly. Our CIA committee met, and we wanted to replicate the work that the high school's been doing for the better part of a decade with the vision of a graduate, and just push that down all the way to kindergarten, so that all 4 schools, SAU-wide, are kind of thinking with that lens of, we have a vision of a graduate, how can we weave our competencies in under those 4 buckets? So that's our next step, and I think that's something we'll be talking about for years to come. It's not something that we'll be able to get done overnight. But other than that, I don't have anything unless anyone has any questions.
In Owen's report, he included information about ED 306.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. Adam was awesome.
Yeah, if you saw Adam on.
We saw Adam on WNUR.
We were well represented by Adam and Owen yesterday, so that was awesome.
Nice. Anything for Owen? Owen, I like the reaching out to the other school districts on the Great Escape. I'd like to see more of that, just because it makes us look pretty good. I think that folks are interested and they can see what we're doing.
If other schools want to participate, they'd be crazy not to. The speakers we have, they're pretty amazing. We can cut a really nice deal for them. So
Nice. Student school board member report. Hot off the press, school report.
So I'll just say one thing about Senate. We got a fundraiser approved with the Rotary at the car show. And so we'll be running a similar format fundraiser to that of the, I'm totally drawing a blank here, the craft fair. And so we'll have parents and businesses around the community donate gift cards, and then it'll be like a grand prize. I think last fundraiser, the gift cards added up to $600, and we ended up raising over $900, or just about $900. And we're hoping this will contribute. We're kind of creating a new scholarship fund that will not only cover, in the past we've done 2 $250 scholarships for seniors. Considering the success of the last fundraiser, we're going to do 2 $500 scholarships for seniors, and then we're also hoping to create a bigger scholarship fund for like other enrichment activities. So I saw later on the agenda was like the DC trips, and we had talked about like some of the concern about covering the cost for people who can't afford it. So we're hoping this will help cover that cost, and then we can talk to counseling, and if there's families who want to come forward and ask for any financial assistance. So, yeah.
Nice. Excellent.
Bryce, if it's okay with you, just to take 1 minute for our new school board member, student board member, to just share what the process is in order to be elected to be here. It's pretty cool.
Well, so like, like a week before, just like about a week before, like the message was sent out that like you could run for the school board if you want the school board to represent the high school at the school board if you wanted to. So you had to get like a lot of signatures, like 20 student signatures and 5. I guess that's a good amount. And then you would speak in front of the 9th, 10th, and 11th graders in front of the auditorium. The seniors weren't there. They were out at the Chick-fil-A truck, as it says in our report. it was like a huge hit, as it says. Like everybody was there, even like non-seniors were allowed to go, but their like meal wasn't paid for. But yeah, so Trevor and I would speak, and since there were 2 slots, we both got elected, and we were the only candidates. So yeah.
So it was a tough campaign for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're hoping we wanted to do school-wide speeches, hoping to like get the word out for underclassmen who are coming up, because I mean ultimately you want it to be a somewhat, not necessarily competitive, but like you want a lot of people running, because some people just won't run because they're not aware of the opportunity that they have. So we're hoping that this gets the word out to like other kids who wouldn't normally hear about it.
So you guys had to give speeches in front of.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking, but.
Can I just say that I would welcome, of course, both of you at that end, but also to say to Grace to thank her for her service for the past year to be on our board too, so.
Well, Grace is famous. I saw her on the cover of the
Tennis,
sports
right?
page,
Yeah. Oh, really?
on the Concord Monitor,
Oh, yeah.
playing tennis. Yeah. Excellent, great. All right, do we need Lori? Is she really in a position to talk? I don't know.
Power is flickering. I'll check in with her while we go through the others.
Okay.
You want to do that?
Adam? We'll give you Adam's legendary for liking to over-explain things.
For both.
He's thorough, he's thorough.
The door project is going well. We are nearly there. It is oops.
That's
The
it.
door project is really going well, and we are nearly there through to completion, which is good. I think that's going to go a long way toward really improving both safety and then access as well, because we're going to be able to share it with the various different community groups in a more kind of user-friendly manner that will control access, after seasons and that sort of thing, which is important. We do have a big fundraising and full day of assemblies coming up on Tuesday, and this is the thing I really wanted to highlight and just throw up an invitation if any of you like to stop in. It is a district-wide sort of invite in that BES is going to come over in the morning, and in the 12 years I've been at Bow Memorial, this is the first time I think we've ever had all of BES coming over for an assembly at the middle school, which will be really pretty cool. So that's Tuesday morning. They're going to have our first assembly of the day. We're welcoming, I forget Tyler's last name, but it's Tyler. He's a Paralympian goalball player. He's going to be coming in. It's going to be a motivational kind of assembly, but kids are also going to see how goalball is played. The K through 4 kids will be in there from about 8:45 until 9:30-ish, about a 45-minute assembly. Then we're going to have our 5th and 6th graders. I didn't think ahead enough to invite Dunbarton. Usually I do. So I may reach out to Tim tomorrow and see if there's a last-minute way we can pull their 5th and 6th graders in as well. And then our 7th and 8th graders, just the way lunches fall, you can't do assemblies during lunch. The nitty-gritties of school life. So our 7th and 8th graders close the day out 1:30 to 2:30 with their goalball assembly. So it should be a great day, full day, and it'll be neat to have the elementary kids come over. 6 to 8 o'clock at night on Tuesday, there is going to be a community-wide fundraiser for Camp Envision, which is for visually impaired folks. And goalball is a Paralympic game basically for visually impaired people. So it should be a really great day, and you're welcome to stop by. Again, if you need an assembly time, just reach out, let me know, and I can let you know when they're going to be. Next thing I just wanted to hit is just a plug for next Saturday evening. The school musical is going on. Marilee Tassell's our director. She always has those kids they do an amazing job, and it's a great kind of celebration of, the performing arts. So you're more than invited. I'm sorry? Oh, it is the Beauty and the Beast this year. Beauty and the Beast this year. And I feel like a heel. I ran in here late, and Marilee had come over to my house, because she lives in Goffstown, yesterday, I think it was, because she knew school was canceled and the kids were going to be here. And they had made invitations for all of you, handmade invitations. and because I was late leaving the house. The handmade invitations are still on my kitchen counter. So I apologize, but you are all formally invited to the Beauty and the Beast musical next Saturday evening. I think it's a 7 o'clock start. Yeah.
Are you driving around to all of our houses to hand deliver those invitations?
I wasn't planning on that, actually.
I don't know, I think you should maybe reconsider.
Well, I will consider it, but I'm just hopeful that the invite is enough. Don't have a lot more to add. Those were kind of the big things. We are going to have our annual spring social for 5th and 6th grade tomorrow. So that means the Dumbarton 5th and 6th graders come over to BMS in the evening. We always call it a social because dance gives visions of like High School Musical or something. So it's a social. It's going to be great. Loud music. It'll work.
Well, if you need chaperones, Martin told me he'd be more than happy.
My daughter's excited.
The 5th and 6th graders get so pumped, and I would hazard a guess that it may be one of the best participation rates across the district for a dance. Like, I'd put it up against prom. It feels like social. Like they come. The little guys love it. So anyway, that's my add-ons. Anything before I step away? All good? All good.
Thank you. I think we're good. Yeah. Brian?
Yeah, not too much to add, but I'll do a couple small things. So we had an ES collaborative conference next week. It's good to keep you updated on this. Nothing unexpected with that visit. We had done a self-reflection report, a couple areas we identified that we want to improve upon. The committee agreed with us. So nothing too different there. It's work on the curriculum stuff we've been working on and spending a lot of time on. You've heard lots about. So that went well. They were really impressed by just our staff and our students and just like the just being in the building and how nice it was. So if you ever seen our lunch in action, we have a lot of bodies all over the place, and they just commented it's crazy that works and that the kids just do what they're supposed to do and clean up after themselves and use nice language and all these other things. So it was like, yep, we have great kids. It's easy. So that went well. Our juniors took the SATs. Was that just last week? I think that was just last week. And they did an awesome job. Shout out to our juniors. They came in focused. They came in ahead of time, not even on time. They were here early so we could get everything going right away. They seemed really motivated. Our proctor said that they took it very seriously when they were in there taking them. So hopefully that shows out in their results.
You agree, Trevor? You must have been one of those. We'll see the results, right?
Yeah, and we appreciate them because we're sending them right back in the testing next week to do the science testing for it. But then they'll be done, which is good. And then we have our college fair next week. That is open to everyone. Usually the junior year is when people think about how that's an important step, and it certainly is. That's why we book it with the testing, so we can literally bring the juniors out of testing right into the college fair. But it is open to all of our students. It's important for freshmen and sophomores too, because they can kind of learn, there's probably, I know it's really early to start thinking of college, but if they have majors in mind or careers in mind, there's opportunities there to ask questions of colleges to think about what scheduling and different options could be for them kind of in the future. There's also other people there. We have career people who come in, the military branches on that too. So it's not just college exclusive while we call it a college fair. There's a lot of post-secondary options there for students. The big thing, Bow Olympics at the end of the month. I have breaking news on what the days are if anyone is interested. Here we go. Monday will be barbecue dads versus soccer moms, so that should be great. Tuesday, what's that?
Don't pick these. No, I'm just kidding.
The peer outreach does. It was great. I loved it.
It's not bad. There's been bad ones in the past.
It will be great. We did it in the past, and the barbecue dads is, what's that? No, they come dressed as barbecue dads or soccer moms. Like, that's the idea. Right. So, and then Tuesday's Twin Day, Wednesday's USA Day, Thursday's Falcon Spirit Day, and then class colors on Friday when we'll have our pep rally and everything. And then we try, as adults, to survive Bow Olympics. Thankfully, break is right afterwards. And then once we get back from break, it is go time. AP testing will be right after April break. The prom will be a couple weeks after that. The spring play, end of the year, just will be here before we know it. So there's the high school. Any questions?
Any questions for Brian? No? Mike, a rare appearance. Any questions for Mike, or anything to add to your report, Mike? What's that?
No, he's going to speak to hockey later in our
Yeah.
agenda.
Anything else? No is a fine answer, Mike. Any questions for Mike? No? All right, moving on. Anyone have any questions about Roy's report or the Coordinator of Wellness or Equity report that they wish to talk about now? All righty. Moving.
Just element,
along.
Lori.
Oh, we going back to
I think
Lori?
She's in and out of connectivity. I think one thing I would add, I don't think she has it in there, is they are in the mid-70s for K registration right now. So that's
Okay.
good, it's climbing.
Excellent. Do we have a motion as it relates to the manifest and vouchers?
I can do it. I have it right here. I will make a motion to approve the manifest for the period ending February 29th, 2024 in the amount of $2,528,109.25.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? So this is basically what the school spent in the last, in whatever she said, February, the month, and it's really broken down, and we basically have to vote to approve it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Moving along, personnel actions. Resignation, John McCafferty. Anyone want to make a motion to accept the resignation of John McCafferty?
I'll make that motion, yes.
Regretfully.
What? Yes.
I'll second it.
Any discussion about that? No?
Just one thing I added yesterday, or the day before, I sent you a late resignation that came in. So we should act on that as well. Lynette Jewell.
Shouldn't we first wrap this one up?
Yes, I'm sorry, I thought you
Yeah,
did.
Okay. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. We have a second resignation.
Lynette Jewell is a
Jewell.
math specialist at Bow Elementary.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to accept her resignation.
Yes, and very regretfully, I will second it.
Very regretfully. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. New hires, Matt Fisk. You want to make a motion before we talk about that?
I'll make a motion to happily,
Very,
Matt
very happily.
Very, and I am very happy to second that.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it. We have the nomination of the professional staff that we do in non-public, because we're talking about individual personnel issues, basically, so we do that with just the board, basically. Girls hockey. Mike? And everybody received the report, correct, that was circulated about, not report, but it was like a 3 or 4 page thing.
To the board, I sent it to the board.
We all saw that, okay, all right.
All right, so, thank you for that. Basically, in this process is new. I don't know what I know what I'd like to accomplish tonight. I don't know what the process is on this end of it, because it is, a co-op team is brand new to Bow High School. We've never had to do one before, never tried to do one before. I know what it looks like on the other side, so I do have additional info because I'm on the NHIA hockey committee. So I do see the other side of that, and we actually are meeting tomorrow morning. And this may, I think and I'll explain who she is in a second, but is trying to get it on that agenda as well for us to approve. In order to do that, we need some other information tonight. So the kind of the short story of it. This has been about a year in the workings. We met last spring with a number of families that were interested in girls hockey at Bow High School. It can be a lengthy process. Hockey of all sports is probably one of the most expensive to fund, so it does take some legwork to get to that point. Through that meeting, it was determined that we don't have enough participation to survive on our own. We can't have our own team. We don't have enough girls for it yet, which gives us the other opportunity of a co-op team, which is exactly what the formation of a co-op would solve, is that a couple schools get together. None of the schools, it used to be neither, but now there's 3 teams, don't have enough to stand alone. So they come together in hopes of, and again, I've been on the committee for 8 years now, the idea of co-ops is that a couple teams, 2 or 3 teams join together to kind of supplement for a couple of years in hopes that within a year, 2-year, a cycle, so a 2-year cycle, maybe a second cycle, those teams can then split up into a standalone as interest develops and things like that. That hasn't happened yet in all of co-ops. They haven't split and survived on their own. So I don't know what direction we'll go in. I think, in looking at numbers, I would be surprised a little bit within a couple of years if we didn't have enough for our own standalone team. So that would be my hope. So at this point, the proposal, and you have some information in front of you, is the addition of girls hockey through a formation of a co-op team with Bishop Brady High School and Trinity High School. The history, it comes from Bishop Brady, has had girls hockey for a number of years. Numbers declined, like they have with a number of teams in the state. They took on Trinity. They've tried Manchester West, and now they have tried Londonderry as a third team to get enough participation. So West and Londonderry kind of fizzled out. It was Bishop Brady, Trinity, Londonderry. Last year, Londonderry was only sending 1 or 0 girls in the past 2 years, so that co-op has dissolved, or will dissolve tomorrow morning when we meet to approve that request. So that was one of the things that we kind of had to wait for, was are they going to actually dissolve it? Because 3 team is the maximum, so we can't just add to that existing co-op. I met with Bishop Brady, so Annie Matarazzo is the AD at Bishop Brady. We've been back and forth a number of times. She had a couple of schools that they were looking at to add to Bishop Brady Trinity. They call themselves Brinity at this point, to kind of make things easier, I guess. So they were looking at a couple schools to figure out what was going to be the best option. She came over and met with our parents. We invited parents grades 6 through 12, did a couple surveys to see what the numbers were going to be, so that she could then determine if it was going to in fact be Bo that they decided with. I talked to her last week or 2 weeks ago, and that was the decision that they made. So then we were invited to become the third team into this co-op. So that's kind of where we stand now. We identified interest in this. We have about 13 girls with experience, and that was one of my pushes. Was I don't really want it to be, or I don't really see high school athletics, varsity athletics, to be a learn to play opportunity. So I did ask what we had for experience, and there are plenty of teams, and we'll get individuals that are very inexperienced for sure, and they'll have an opportunity to learn. But as far as building a team, I wanted to see what we had for experience. So we identified 13 with experience in grades 6 through 12, which kind of was the number that she was looking for, and then broke it into grades from there, so that if we were to approve this, we would send most likely, hopefully 4, it might be 3 to 4 girls next year to participate. Each of those other schools will have roughly the same, if not 5. So they survived this year with a very low number, with next year hoping to bring that up to 12 or 13, which is very low still in ice hockey, but enough to survive in New Hampshire girls ice hockey at this point in time. So they would like to kind of bring that forward to the NHIA as soon as we can. There are some deadlines associated with that. In fact, if we go by the handbook, the NHIA deadline for formation of a new co-op would be at the end of the season the year prior. So the finals were, a few weeks ago. So we're supposed to have our stuff in. Well, essentially it would be for tomorrow's meeting. Again, being on the committee, I know that is difficult. There's a lot of things that have to go into the plan, and I'm pretty confident that we can push that if we don't get to the approval point, or if Bishop Brady doesn't submit the papers that they need to as well. So we'll kind of see where that ends up tomorrow morning. I can only hope to take care of our end of it. Co-op rules require a lead school, which would be Bishop Brady. So we are just kind of a tag-along team or tag-along school with that. She kind of is responsible for game administration, things like that, and then if she needs other things where they can't cover it, then either the Trinity AD or myself or our staff or whatever would kind of fill in as they need it. We have to iron out transportation. They play at Tri-Town in Hooksett, so that would be our home rink as well. So there's other things that we have to iron out to see how that exactly would work out. I think it's pretty manageable. I don't see it as being a huge obstacle in any sense. Uniforms are also part of the plan here. The rule on uniforms is that each school is supposed to be represented somehow. What they've done for a couple teams now, again, I mentioned Bishop Brady, Trinity, and West, and then Bishop Brady, Trinity, and Londonderry. They basically, their team this year had Bishop Brady uniforms, so green and yellow, with a large crest on the front that just had Bishop Brady, Trinity, and Londonderry in that big circle that was kind of sewn on over where it used to say Brady. I think, I'm gonna certainly encourage a new look, and somehow let's get something a little more neutral and something that looks a little bit better than that. However, that also comes with a cost. So the other part of that, and I tried to get from Annie what her cost breakdown looked like, and it sounds like it was pretty informal, I think, is probably the best way to put it up to this point. And from what I've seen, again, in seeing all the different co-ops that have come across for approval, it's pretty normal to get, so if we come up with a cost for ice hockey, so if you look at the numbers that are on that sheet that she kind of estimated, it's her ice time. I don't know what the cost is at Tri-Town, any of that stuff, but I think it comes out, is it 36,000 or so, Dwayne? So ideally, seems pretty easy. You got $36,000 you got to split up, and that's again with new uniforms, so that number would change by about 5,000 when we don't have to buy new uniforms. Easy thing is to say, okay, well, we got 3 teams, we have $36,000, so it's going to cost $12,000 per team. I think that's probably the high end. The more common thing that teams are doing is from that 36,000, and this is difficult because you can't plan for it, how many people are on the team, and let's come up with a per person cost. So if there's 18 players, then it costs each player $2,000. We're sending 4, so it costs Bow High School $8,000. That's where the variables are going to come in, because we don't know how many girls we're going to have, and we don't know what that total cost is going to be, because it's not in our control. It's a different rink, it's different transportation, it's, there's a lot of things that are different, split the cost of officials, things like that. So there's a number of things on there. Again, the packet, and I don't need to speak all the way through this, this is the NHIA process of what we have to go through. So there is some information on there. If you have questions, we can certainly discuss that. The coach has been in place for that team since, even when Bishop Brady was standalone in girls hockey, it's the same coach. He's been there for a number of years. And then again, you can see that the idea to purchase new uniforms. Other equipment is provided by the players, like it is for most other sports, including our own boys hockey team as well. Then there's also more guidelines for co-op teams. One thing to consider, or not really a concern at this point, co-op teams are no-cut sports, so we cannot cut from any co-op teams that are formed. So again, if we are going to continue to send people, then once we get to a certain number, we really have to consider maybe it's time to do this on our own. I think we played, I think it was Manchester that we played in boys ice hockey this year, and I think I noticed that there was 8 or so kids that were not dressed in that game, because you can only put 20 on the bench. So they are Manchester schools, so it's a 3-team co-op. They can't cut. A lot of kids don't play. They don't even dress. So that ends up being a challenge, I think, or a concern at some point, that we can't cut anybody. Everybody's on the team, but you can only play so many kids. There's no JV. It's what you got. So that could be an issue as well. Some of this documentation is not complete because Trinity hadn't filled in their numbers. But they look for our enrollment figures. That's more for classification, I think, in most situations, but girls hockey in New Hampshire only has 1 division, so it doesn't matter. As long as our co-op total enrollment doesn't exceed the biggest school that participates, which would be Pinkerton at 3,200 kids or whatever their number is now. So we're well below that with the two schools that we would add. We're the biggest by far in that co-op, but again, would not be the lead school, which is a little different. It's it'll be interesting to see how that support goes. I mean, are we going to compete for a championship right away? I don't know, but as the 3rd team in, we don't get a trophy if we win. that goes to the lead school. So that's a different, it'll be a different dynamic, I think, if we ever get to that point. So I have more information on the families that have shown some interest. So I just mentioned that we would have 4 or so for next year. So this would, again, would be for next year in a 2-year cycle. So for next year and then the following year. So we would have 4 maybe, and then the following, so that if we send 4 high school kids, we're also going to have 6 that are in 8th grade at that point. So the following year, we would send potentially 6 more. So we could, likely have 8 or 9 within that second year. So again, that's where I think that this may take off pretty quick so that we can get to our own team, which, we can tackle as that comes down the road. So I think I don't know what your process would be in this. I know that we need approval. We need school board and superintendent and principal approval through signatures. So I do have a form, but if this requires more discussion or more time from the board to kind of figure out how it's going to go, I don't have all the facts. Again, it's a little, if it seems kind of thrown together, it's because it kind of is, because it was rushed a little bit with the timeframes. Questions, anything?
I just have a question.
Sure.
I think it's great, but we obviously didn't put it in our budget this year. So if we were to decide that we want to go forward with this, do we have a way to pay for it? Like, can we make that work?
Where's
So-
the 12,000 come from?
One of the things, Mike and I haven't connected yet on this piece of it, but I think if the board says, okay, let's go ahead and pursue this, I think the next step after the meeting tomorrow that Mike has with NHIA Hockey Committee would be to get that group of parents back together to kind of give them, all right, this is a go, this is what we're doing, this is how much we think it's going to cost, and encourage them to put together some sort of fundraiser because it isn't budgeted for. There's also other organizations that we could ask for some support if we need to. And then Dwayne always has some other ideas.
I think so. Sorry about that. I think I gave a little pause to asking parents to do anything beyond what we asked the boys hockey parents to do.
And how much, they pay 200?
200. So this is, this is a leap, it's one of those leaps that, the budget hasn't even started until July 1st and things like that. But, there are always things that positive and negative happen in the litany of lines that we have throughout the budget. And it's just something that, as stuff like that happens, we keep track of good and bad. And so I think that that's just one of the things that our office does. You just kind of manage that and you figure it out. And, so there might be a couple things that we were thinking, okay, we might do that. We might hold. We might not do something until, okay, now we're okay. We'll do it later in the year. But yeah, stuff like that does happen. And, that's what we do.
So maybe as a board, it sounds like we kind of we're pressed to really vote on this tonight, it seems like.
Well,
Through no
yes
fault
and
of
no.
yours, Mike, understood.
Right, it's, again, yeah, and I don't even know, to be honest with you, if we're ready tomorrow morning to present to the committee, if we're gonna have everything in place. But if I have, again, and I just kind of made up something that's fairly generic, that says that the board approves and supports the program, then I can at least bring that, so they'll have something that says, okay, we can look to this and move forward with it.
But could we as a board, as a fallback, so Dwayne, you can't find any money anywhere, you don't know what to do, we're locked in, we don't have an extra cent. If that happened, could we use the sports fund money, the capital reserve fund from the athletic fees to fund this if we had to? Because it's hard for us to approve it without being able to say we absolutely have a way to pay for this. And to me, that's the fall-safe way that we can absolutely pay for this.
No, you couldn't use that fund for 2 reasons. One, it's not a purpose that's applicable to the fund. The fund is for athletic equipment and fields, or I can't remember the exact wording. So something like that wouldn't work. Plus, you're not the agents to expend the fund. So you'd actually have to call a special school district meeting to do this, which I probably would advise against. That's a lot of work for you all and for the moderator and everybody for not for a small thing, but for in the grand scheme of things, an issue that's not like, if you're gonna call a special school district meeting, it's something really big usually has happened, usually facility related or special ed related. I do think that, you know, if I sit here today, I mean, one of the things that we do that, you know, isn't required in budgeting is, you know, what we try to do is not spend saved salary and benefit money on stuff, for lack of a better word, like equipment and supplies and things like that. I am hopeful that we will be fully staffed in all areas that we've proposed to be, but we haven't been for 3 years. I mean, one open position would pay for this. You know, so that, in my mind, that's kind of where I immediately leap to. Even though I don't usually do that kind of transfer, you know, if we have one special education aid position that goes unfilled for the year, that's like $30,000. That's the floor. That's like if somebody wasn't taking benefits and things like that. So, I mean, something like that would easily take care of a program like that.
Can I ask a question, Mike? How much does it cost for our boys hockey team?
Well, that, I mean, well, there's a couple, ice time alone is in the vicinity of 20,000. That's for practices and games. And so I don't have that number. So, and then we have 2 coaches, so that's probably 8,000 total. We pay 2 officials for every game, so 9 home games, 2 officials at about $90 per. So, you know, 180 times the 9 home games, and then playoff games, and then whatever the transportation cost would be. So all in, I don't know what that number is, but it's, I think it's going to be in that 30 to
Yeah.
36,000.
I think what Brady put together in the proposal is pretty, it's pretty close. I mean, the one thing that, you know, you kind of have unknowns actually for each of your teams. I mean, and hockey can have the unknown that costs the most money. If you go deep in the tournament, you've got additional week or 2 weeks worth of ice time. You know, I don't know Hooksit's requirements, but the Concord Ice Arena requires a police officer detail to be at every home game. So that's a cost that we bear. So, but it would be split 3 ways. So I think there are costs. I mean, this is very similar, but hockey is a costly athletic event, you know, athletic program.
What's tricky, I guess, is that, and look, I'm all in favor of it. I mean, if we have the ability to say we absolutely can find $12,000, but I haven't actually heard that yet, no offense, but I mean, but my point being, and I look at Adam, because Adam, Julia Landcastle, and myself started the middle school lacrosse teams. I think that's probably the last team. And again, middle school is different than HIA. But it was quite a process. I mean, we fundraised with 0 budget our first year, because we fundraised like crazy. We had 60 people at different things fundraising to pay for it, to make it all paid for, so it didn't hit the budget the first 2 years, I think, that the program was around. And we're not in that position here because it's so quick. And I'm not, if somebody can just tell me we've got 12,000, 100% chance we can pay that, I'm in. But what you're saying doesn't say that, because we could be fully staffed, like, so what else? You know what I mean?
I think there's in the parents, what's come from the meeting, and Dwayne has kind of told us where we would fall on that. The hockey parents, if you don't know, hockey parents they're different. But they're very used to paying lots of money for their kids to play youth hockey. So, you know, their argument was, well, what's it gonna, let's pay for it, we can pay for it ourselves, whatever, but again, that brings the equality stuff that we just talked about, that our boys team doesn't pay. I would be, again, this won't give you a handful of money, but I'm quite sure that if we were able to use fundraiser money for this, that those parents would jump on board to raise what we needed for sure.
I'm just thinking, like, if we're talking about equality for, like, the paying of it, we also need to talk about it for the gender of it. Like, if we have a boys' team, don't we need to?
I fully support it.
No, I know.
We didn't put it, I would have put it in the budget.
Yeah.
It wasn't an option in.
Yeah, we didn't, this happened much quicker, I think, if you remember, that we weren't getting any leads anywhere.
Right.
Mike did a lot of work behind the scenes, working with NHIA and other school districts to kind of make this happen. I think in terms of the $12,000, I would Dwayne said 3 years. Since I've been here, we haven't been fully staffed. So I'm in my 5th year. But at the end of each year, we do have a fund balance, right? And it's well exceeds $12,000. I think I can confidently say that we have $12,000 that we can put towards this.
All right.
I personally just feel like I support it because we've heard from a lot of parents and a lot of the community that this is something that is really important to them, so I feel like we should support it. That's my personal opinion.
And Melanie, you talked about the equality piece too. If we have a boys team, then we should have a girls team. We should, yes, but we don't have the players to support that. So that's why we're not to that point yet.
Yeah, but I'm just seeing like this is an opportunity to maybe grow something.
Yep, it's an opportunity
Yeah.
to get more kids involved for sure. And
Absolutely.
again, as I said before, I would be surprised if this didn't develop into our own standalone within a couple of years. This would be a 2-year commitment at the least. It's a 2-year cycle for each schedule.
Mike, how do you lock into the third as opposed to pay by player? Because given our school size is so much bigger than those other 2 schools.
Well, and that may be,
We're gonna pay 'em.
that may be a proposal that we bring to Brady. She didn't really give me what her structure has been working with all these different schools, but I don't know that it's even as, I don't think that she's asked for the money that we're even talking about now. I think Brady has absorbed a lot of it in hopes that schools were going to send, but I don't think that that's how we should prepare. I think we should prepare to pay for a third of it, or at least cover the cost, what the per player cost is for the kids that we would send. But I think that's going to be about a third of the team anyway.
All right, I guess, do we have a motion pending? I can't remember. Somebody make a motion?
Nobody
make a
made a
motion.
motion, but I'll make a motion to, how would I word this? To accept or to recommend the athletic
Formation?
director, to the formation of a co-op with Fisher Brady and Trinity for girls hockey.
I'll second that. Sorry, Angela, you can do it.
Any additional discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All
Thank you
right.
very much.
What's the last new sports team we had at the high school? Probably none of us know. Adam, you've probably been around the longest.
At the high school?
Yeah.
Okay, so indoor track came in as a petition warrant article, and then it fell out, and then it came back. So I don't know if that's,
Like
But-
10 years ago or something?
yeah, I'm trying to remember when the petition warrant article was. It was not long after I started. It was like maybe 06 or 07. I could have the year wrong, but then it was, and then oh, I forget about,
True, that's true.
forget about
Esports.
esports. I'm sorry, Brian. Brian's the
right.
commissioner of esports.
That's right, forgot about that too. It doesn't
There's your
matter.
answer, esports apparently.
Anyway, nice. All right, moving right along, student cell phone use in school survey.
So you were part of an email that was sent to all of us, and one of the points that was brought up in the email was around surveying parents around cell phone use in the buildings. And so I agreed to bring it to the board to consider. If you are to consider it, I would ask that they be separate. So the middle school have a separate one than the high school, because I think developmentally they're different and their practices are different. Adam and Brian can talk about what they currently do as a process, but we can decide if we want to send that out or not.
I guess I don't understand what the survey would be about exactly, like what
If
parents
parents want essentially their students to be able to use their phones or have access to their phones while they're in school.
Okay.
So the middle school approach is basically, it's framed around responsible use. I feel so loud in this thing.
I love that people are sitting up there, it just cracks me up.
Well, it's a great system. We've got this design.
It's great if you have a microphone.
Yeah. It's designed around responsible use, and it's worked pretty well. It is also very different from grade to grade to grade to grade. Fifth grade has almost no access to cell phones during the day, and that they really do treat that more elementary-ish, the fifth grade team. Each team kind of has some leeway with how they manage it. By eighth grade, teachers will actually allow the kids they'll put their homework into their cell phones. They have more options with how they use them. But there's still some baseline, expectations, all framed around responsible use. And we basically divide the day out into our time, your time. And we talk to them just like we would to another adult, where it's framed around, you would consider it rude if I was on my cell phone while I was up here talking to you. And we say these things to the kids. And that's why while we're in class, the expectation is your phones are away. But then, again, by 8th grade, they're allowed to take them out at the end. If they want to use that to jot their homework down, well, a cell phone's also a tool, and a lot of us use it that way too. The grocery list goes in the cell phone. So we're trying to teach the kids through the years, how to use it as a tool with the emphasis on responsible use. Certain zones are like complete no-goes for cell phones, like bathrooms. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Kids will bring them out when an adult's not in there, but that clearly, between the internet, the ability to take pictures, it's just, we like to send that message. It's a hard no in there. Not that it doesn't happen, but that's our message. We do allow kids in 6th through 8th grade to use them at recess and also at lunch. Again, their time, like it's, that's your time. You can use it. And that's part of kind of in keeping with the responsible use theory and philosophy. It's not a perfect situation, but I think it's pretty good overall. I think kids have become really pretty respectful of the cell phones and that approach, because I think it seems reasonable to them. Like, I think they feel like, okay, you guys are not just saying no. So they can rationalize with the rules and why they're there. They can understand, yeah, I don't see Mr. Pingree on the cell phone during social studies, but he might be on it when he's, checking his texts in a study hall or something. I'm making it up, but our time, your time, that concept seems to work.
Do you have, like in 8th grade, do you have any kids that do not have a cell phone? Or do you have any parents who have explicitly said, do not allow my kid to have a
It
cell
is
phone?
going to be a guess to answer this. I would, just broad brushes, virtually every 8th grader has a cell phone, virtually.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is probably a half dozen or so that maybe don't. By 8th grade, they're pretty universal. 5th grade, probably less than 50%. Like, there's more of them than you think have them at 10 years old, but it's not universal, it's not pervasive. They're really good rule followers at that age. 6th grade Christmas time is that magical season where cell phones come down the chimney. That we see a big uptick, so we always do a little PSA around Christmas time.
Yeah.
With cell phones, with some, the suggestions like take the cell phone and plug it in your room, the parents' room, at night, because that's the problem area we see.
So if a parent said to you, they are allowing their kid to bring the phone to school, but the parent said, I do not want you to allow my kid to use their phone at any time, would you guys try and abide? I know that's inconsistent, because the answer would be just leave your phone at home, but I'm just trying to think through, like.
We'll be good. We'll try to be good teammates, but it's impossible. Like, if you had turned to me and said, I want you to keep,
a cell phone.
Don't let Cooper use his phone. It's like, it's such a big ask. It's like, when I see it, I'm happy
I
to.
understand.
Yeah, I'm happy to tell. That's got to be in your backpack. you know that, bud, that kind of thing. But it's just such a big ask, and teachers have 100+ kids. It's an unrealistic lift. Like, we try, but I don't know how I would never assure a parent that we can do this.
Yeah.
Like, that would be unreasonable for me to say that, because I'm not going to be able to follow through.
Right.
Yeah.
So say if we did this survey and like 70% of parents said, I don't want my kids to have access during the day, which I don't think that's what we would get, but say we did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would even be what could we even do to help them,
Well,
to change what we're doing now?
I think we would have to I'm not opposed to the survey, by the way. Like, that, I'm not at all worried about doing the survey. I think it'd be fine to do. I think you might actually get some really interesting information from it. I think we'd want to be thoughtful about how we put it together. I don't know that I think the cell phones themselves are actually the issue. I think when you look at, it's cell phone use, right? So you then have to disaggregate that in however you structure the form, because there's 2 different ways kids have issues with cell phones, I think, at schools. It's not usually phone, and it's not usually text you can get into trouble, but I put that more in the category of the second thing I would talk about. First category is games, right? Kids play games. And that was actually the genesis of why you got that email. It all evolved from kids becoming a bit passionate over a video game. You know, that was the root. So video games can become an issue. We don't see it as a big issue in classes because kids can't be on their phones during classes. The teachers are going to notice, and they have pretty good control and a good handle over that time. The games manifested as an issue kind of during a free time sort of zone in homeroom. And that kind of was in the category of unstructured. So I think you'd want to parse out what is the root problem. You know, is it games? Second category, which I think is just as big a problem as games and maybe more so, is social media. And I kind of put text messaging in there because social media tends to be more of a conduit for cyberbullying, and a lot of issues that we see come from there, and particularly around group texts, because especially our younger kids, well, but it goes right through 8th grade. I mean, the 8th graders will do the same thing. The group texts become faceless, just like social media becomes faceless, and then you see the comments that can be, you know, horrible. At the same time, it's a brutally hard thing to police. Like, we do a lot of refereeing on Mondays and Tuesdays from slumber parties that were over the weekend. I mean, it is what it is. Like, you see these things emerge over time when you've done it long enough. And it's not all the time. I actually think our kids have a pretty good awareness over how to manage it, but it is an addiction. I mean, they are designed to trigger certain things in all of our minds, you know, and we've all been guilty of it where we'll glance at our phone. And kids are no different. But they are more aware of it than I think we maybe think they are. And I think that's why I do like our practice. Our objective is to frame around responsible use, teaching kids to use the cell phone and not let the cell phone use them. So, I don't know. Sorry to be so long-winded. I lived up to my
Wouldn't
reputation.
expect anything less from you, Adam.
I think it was thorough.
That's right.
You don't need nails.
Great. Getting old.
So,
I mean, I'm going to echo some of the similar things Adam did. I mean, we developed a set of procedures this year that we don't require every teacher to use around cell phones, but many of our teachers do. And that's for class time specific. You'll see our teachers have the shoe, hangers, and the kids go put their phones in there for class. We've had not too many issues around it. I thought we'd actually have more when we kicked it off, but a lot of kids seem pretty fine with putting their phone up in the shoe slot or whatever. It varies a little bit with age, right? I think our freshman teachers who teach primary freshman classes are more likely to use that procedure and follow it letter to the law, where some of our upper level classes, where frankly the cell phone is being used educationally. In a physics class, they might be using it to time their experiment or something like that, so they're trying to utilize it in a positive way. So we're not seeing many classroom issues. I'm not saying there's zero, but we handle them like any other minor infraction, and we deal with the individual kid. Free time, we don't police kids at all on it. So if they're in lunch, they can be on their phones. Some kids are, and that's what it is. Or if they have free time and they're sitting in the lobby or waiting, whatever, they're going to be on their phones. But and that's our age kids, like they're teenagers. Some of them use it. I mean, we have lots of kids who work. They need to talk about their work schedules or this or transportation for a practice after school or whatever the case may be, and kind of communicate, so they use it. We gladly send a survey out. It's fine, I have no issues with that. Once in a while we have parents who will reach out and say like, hey, Johnny got in trouble. I'm having him drop his phone off at the office at the beginning of the day. He can't get it till the end of the day, and we help out, and they'll do that and they'll leave their phone, and then they'll come back at the end of the day and pick up their phone, so we'll support that as we can. So I think it's going fine. I mean, I wish kids weren't on their phones, period. That would be great. But I don't know how we get that universally across the board. But we have some kids who don't use that and don't. Similar with the issues, it's, the games because they get bored in class, or it's social media, kind of from there. And those are the main two uses. But they also have Chromebooks where they can do similar things. So, they'll work around. If they really want to get distracted in class, they will figure out a way to get themselves distracted in class. So,
Yeah, I think Melanie hit the nail on the head what would we do with the data, you know? But so what, I guess? We cross that bridge after we do it. And I guess it sounds, hearing you guys, I think it sounds like what we should ask about is a couple separate things, right? Should your kid have the phone in the classroom, and should your kid have the phone during free time, or should the kid have the phone not at all? And I'm sure there's some other buckets, but, because I can tell you, I think it was 2 years ago when my son was a freshman, one of the it was the parent-teacher night or whatever, the orientation, the first night thing, and the room was full of all the parents, and the teacher said, I have a new policy this year, I don't allow kids to have phones in the classroom, and I make them walk in the door and put them in the shoe rack. And the entire room erupted in clapping from all the parents. Every parent in that room was excited about that. And, but I think we've talked about this before again. Jen Rain said her experience has been the exact opposite. And she's seen so many parents say, I have to be able to reach my child at every second of every day. Don't you dare take that phone away from my kid. I need to be able to reach him. Which I was like, really? Who would think that? I would love it if my kid didn't have their phone at school. But I guess we'll find out. I guess we'll find out, right?
It'll be interesting to find out.
Yep, I'll share that with you. I assume we'll have no problem doing that before the next meeting.
But I think also Adam's right. I think Adam's right that, you know, when you come up with that survey, I guess it's like thinking about all of the issues that you kind of see and how to word that. That's going to be a little tricky, I'm sure. But thank you.
One last comment on it. Gentlemen, what do you guys have to say? Any thoughts on either the phone policy or just any thoughts on this conversation?
I definitely see what Mr. O'Connell talked about with like the upperclassmen classes. Like most of the classes I'm in, they don't really police it whatsoever. But I mean, if it becomes a problem, they will take action to do something about it. But at that point and at that age, they kind of just expect you to know that you're not supposed to be using it. But and then like in band where we have all the grades there, we all like that's our attendance is putting it in the shoe rack, and honestly, no one really cares. It's not that big of a problem. But if anything, I've forgotten many times, and then she just says, "Oh, put your phone up there." It's just a matter of like forgetting. People don't really give like they don't really care. So.
Yeah, it's like the exact opposite. Like in all my freshman classes, we all have to put the phone in the pocket. And the other thing is the survey is being sent out to the parents, right?
Yes.
Not to the students. Okay. That would make.
We know what the students.
Yeah.
Is leaving your phone in the driver's ed car and then going to school, is that a good practice?
My son did that.
Her kid did that.
No. It's good, he didn't have his phone.
True, true. In my driveway. 3 times, wow. All right,
I
great.
got one thing on this, just
Yeah.
before we move on. When you design the survey, you might want to reach out to IT, Roy or Chris, whatever, because one of the solutions could also be that certain domains can just be blocked on this network, so you can go to facebook.com or instagram.com, so you can allow regular traffic if you want to like Google something, right? But other things like social media, you can selectively block. And
Yeah, there are definitely things that we can't get to.
They get around it, though.
I don't know.
I'm not saying they can, but
Oh,
Yes.
they can.
Yeah. That's a good
But
point.
Martin would figure it out every single time.
Right.
All right, 3 overnight trips. I think, haven't we, we definitely talked about a couple of these.
We talked about them, we said if we'd bring them back. The adventure club trip is coming off, so we don't even have to talk about that.
It's getting revamped.
Okay.
Oh,
You want to come talk about DC and Puerto
we
Rico?
wanna go to the big
Puerto Rico, just going ahead, Puerto Rico is one day, the day before, the day before break. So it's just one day out of school, and then the rest is during school break, just as an FYI.
Yeah, so these are the same trips we talked about before. We went back and looked at dates, see if it made sense to change any of them. It didn't really with the Puerto Rico because they're just missing that one day before break, and it's simply flights. You know, they're just so significantly cheaper if you leave that Thursday night before or early Friday morning. The DC one, we did look at the dates, and this just, I think with the timing of the election and where everything's going to be, this is just, if we're going to do it, this is the week to do it. You know, you could wait for Thanksgiving where you have like that condensed week, but it will just be a different experience. And who knows where we'll be at after the election, and where everything is at transition or not transition. We have looked at some of the funding things. Trevor spoke of it earlier. The Senate's been really kind of motivated to help with those type of interesting fundraising ideas and looking at ways to kind of supplement costs for people who might be struggling, not just with this trip, but for any trip in general. I think Trevor himself might be the biggest advocate for this trip, period. I've heard him mention it, I think, half a dozen times at this point. Every time I stop in the Senate, I think it comes up in some capacity. So it's the same trip proposal. I mean, I do support it. I don't want to speak for the principal who will be here, actually, overseeing this trip, but I have a feeling he supports it as well. I guess we could ask him. Yeah. It is a few school days, but with the block scheduling and everything, I think we'll be okay. And again, this would be just this one time we would do it at this time frame. If we make this an annual trip, Ms. Wu would like to bookend it around the vacations moving forward. It's just a uniqueness that this will be an election year and be a really cool experience to be down there right before.
And who's Lily Wu, and who else would be missing school then? Or chaperoning?
Yeah, we haven't picked a second chaperone. Probably be a male teacher, just to balance the genders with the overnight trip. Lily's a team teacher, so that helps significantly because we still have the other teacher for her team classes there. I mean, Nick is who pops into my head. He's done other overnight trips for us, so is Derek, DeAngelis, both team teachers with humanities,
Yeah.
With social studies backgrounds. So I don't want to commit to them without talking to them first, but...
But can you reach out to a team teacher first?
Yeah, certainly.
Commit
definitely.
to doing that?
Yeah, 100%.
And God, for your sake, the pushback we generally have on these is the missing of school, not so much of the kids missing school, but the teacher who teaches a day's worth of class to other students. All those students then, for that whole time they're gone, have to have a substitute teacher, and generally it's not quite as good of an education we view. So that's why, that's why it's usually our number one pushback. And then sometimes cost comes into it too, but just so you know. Well, do we have a motion
Yeah, I'll
on
make a
the two
motion
trips?
to approve both the Washington DC and the Puerto Rico trips as proposed.
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Excellent. Good luck, Trevor. We need a postcard from there, and
We'll expect a full report back at the next board meeting after.
you know what I love there are the Segway. They have the Segways
Yeah,
everywhere.
Segways.
That's,
Get around.
yeah,
You
and you
get on them
can
all better, yeah.
you can get all over the place. It's great, and you can really like you can go from the Washington Monument. No, you can go from the Lincoln Memorial to the Capitol. No, yeah, Capitol.
That's right, yeah.
But do it fairly quickly on one of those. Anyway, Bow Police Department, first read.
Yep, this is our MOU with Bow PD. I had hoped to be able to find the prior one, and I haven't been able to, just for you to compare to. I did reach out to, or I'm sorry, Chief Miller reached out to me just to kind of get it going. Every school district is required to have this relationship with the police department. It's around our SRO and our relationship with the PD with all of our Bow students. We just actually did Dunbarton's as well, and that's obviously specific to Dunbarton PD. I'm not asking you to do anything with it today, just acknowledge it for a first read, and if you have suggestions for changes or questions, let me know. But it's pretty standard.
The one piece that jumped out at me, it said something to the effect of full-time, and I just wanted to make sure I understood that. Historically, we've shared that cost, whether we pay 50% of the salary of that employee or what have you.
Yep.
It read to me like there was an expectation we pay 100%.
Okay.
And I may have misread how that was, but that jumped out at me as not being right.
Okay.
Basically.
I will make that note.
We get accounting at the end of the year from the PD through the finance office at the town. And it's basically, here's the full cost of the officer, then they break it down to per day, and then how many days the officer was on site with us, because not necessarily, the SRO is not gonna be here 180 days. I mean, there's just training and all the things that they have to do, and sometimes they get called away and things. So we're very lucky that the PD and the finance office charges us for the actual days that they're here, so, and that's where that money comes from.
Yeah, so it's in D1, section D1 is where it says the Bow Police Department will assign a full-time SRO to the Bow School District, blah, blah, blah. And maybe that doesn't mean that we pay for all of it, but I read that to mean like, well, does that mean we're paying for all? So that's the only,
Yep.
only thing I saw that I thought, let's clarify.
I saw one other thing I was just kind of wanted to touch on, just because of some of the stuff I've seen in the news with maybe over-policing inside of not our schools or any place, but other schools. Just the A1, I just kind of wondered if we wanted to put something about, so it says, to promote an atmosphere of safety and order for students and faculty members through the use of school discipline and enforcement. I just didn't know if we wanted to put something along the lines of what our policies are, like our policies or just because it seems very vague. It seems like, oh, well, I did that because of school discipline, but I want to, and it might be just that with the stuff like I've seen in the news and stuff like that, I just get a little bit worried if I don't think we have anybody that would do that, but.
I can take a look at it, Melanie. If you have suggestions that you want to send after, I can try and figure out where and how to word that in here, and then go over it with Chief Miller.
Anything else? Setting school board meeting dates, 24, 25, and I will say there's one typo. It says Monday, it should say Thursday on the
Oh.
distributed for 2024, but the date's right, it's just the wrong day of the week.
Okay.
Oh, that's funny. I was like, oh, there must be a holiday
Yeah.
that we're having
I-
it on.
I actually
didn't
looked
look
on my
at December
calendar.
5th.
I
was
did
like,
look
there
on my
must be a holiday,
calendar.
So we're having it on Monday. I didn't even.
Yeah, and it wasn't a holiday, yeah.
I wouldn't mind, like, changing
Thanksgiving's
one.
really late this year, so I was like, oh, maybe it's that.
I wouldn't mind changing November 7th, just because every year it's my twins, it's their birthday.
November's a tricky month.
I know.
Because there's
Oh, yeah, last
the
year I
election.
missed it because it is a weird week of school, too.
It's
Yeah.
election, it's Veterans Day, and it's student conferences, so that's a really.
I know, I've missed my son's birthdays for 2 years, though.
Yeah. No, I'm not, I'm just letting you know.
I'm just
what
saying
the
if we
challenge is.
if we could
Yeah,
find
can we do
another.
Tuesday that week instead?
Well, there's Tuesday, we can, but Tuesday is teacher conferences and election day.
Or
right?
November, Tuesday?
November,
Isn't election day Thursday?
oh, sorry, yeah.
No, election's Tuesday.
No, election's Tuesday.
It is?
It is Tuesday, yeah.
So it just might be, and parent-teacher conferences go till later at night.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Just might
Monday
be
an
harder.
SAU one, then can we do Monday?
Hang on.
She's right, there's no way I would come to this if it was my, like, kid's birthday.
Yeah, we should definitely move it. I'm just saying Tuesday's probably not the best. Monday or Wednesday, maybe, but.
No, but if you guys said, like, legitimately, there's no place to move it to, that's
I mean,
that's
no, we
fine.
can-
I just
Monday
figured
or
I'd
Wednesday
ask.
is probably fine.
Yeah, we can find some.
Yeah, right.
Tuesday's just not ideal.
So, and another day.
Yeah, we should be able to find some. But
What day did you, oh, you said the 7th?
Yeah.
Okay.
what about Monday that week?
The 11th
Is a holiday.
holiday.
No, that week, so.
It's
like
student
the 4th or something,
conferences.
the Second or whatever, whatever the Monday is.
The 4th is student conferences, that's the one that goes,
Student
Oh, that's the one that
late.
goes late? Tuesday doesn't go late?
Tuesday, we're off
Right, okay.
because of elections.
Yeah.
About moving it right to the 14th. Is the 14th, man?
Yeah, what about the 14th?
We could do the 14th.
Okay.
Done.
So I just want to say thank you.
Want to move that?
Yeah,
Let's move that then, too.
Oh, boy, all
You
right,
might
hang
be
on.
doing a fishing trip then anyway, I think.
Really?
And I'll be in
Yes.
Germany.
Okay.
so I-
And you'll be in Germany, so that's.
There we go.
Yeah, because school starts the next week, so you usually go right before school
Yeah,
starts.
on the Thursday, yeah, yeah.
Which one, Angela?
22nd of August.
Okay. That date was, I threw a dart because it was when what was on the last calendar.
Right.
What about the Tuesday that week? I always say Tuesday, because I know you guys have Dunbarton
Right.
Wednesdays, so
Right.
could we do Tuesday that week, so the 20th? Oh, you gone the whole week? Okay.
Are you gone to Germany?
Yep.
The whole week? Okay, let's,
The week?
August 12th to the 27th.
Oh, okay. So can we do the 28th? Or do you really want to have it before school starts?
That was my hope, but
Do I need to be there?
Oh, what was your starting one?
12th.
August 12th?
12th.
Do you want to do just before August 12th then? Like, the first week in August? Although August never works out. The reality
No.
is we'll all be away doing something. That's just reality. It always happens.
We could do the 8th.
but,
the 8th, it's Great Escape.
yeah, that's, when are you gone?
And he's gone the 12th to the 27th.
Yeah, so
don't-
maybe
don't-
we
don't
exclude
schedule
Martin,
around
because
me.
he's gone the month of August.
I can
But if
dial
the
in from
4 of
Germany.
us can meet. Do like the-
We could try the 15th.
Or even like the Monday, Thursday's oh no, you're gone.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
Okay.
Okay.
There's no requirement for us to meet in August. It's just nice to do
Right.
as we kick off the year. Yeah.
I do feel like that,
Well, and
but-
September 5th is really close in time to August 22nd anyway.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
so we did last year, but.
Melanie, what's your vacation schedule? How long are you gone?
To be honest, I didn't bring it because I didn't have an issue with that date. So can
I
we
mean, it's
just
like a
decide
week, or
on-
is it 2 weeks, or
We have
like
2
how
weeks,
long?
But
2 weeks?
I also might have friends coming and staying, so we,
I mean, at this point, either there's no
Let's-
meeting, or we put one, and we don't worry about Martin, or either we bank on whatever the three of us can do, and if you can make it, you can make it.
Our opening days, our first opening day is the 26th, which is a Monday.
The first day of school is?
It's not the first day of school, it's for opening day with
The
staff.
kids go Wednesday, right?
They go Wednesday, so we have the 26th or the
What
27th.
about Tuesday, the 27th?
We could do that.
Again, though, we're so close to September 5th at that point. Our next meeting is
Yeah.
8
I know,
days
but I
later.
think it's more to say, is that everybody okay before we open schools?
No,
It
I
was a
hear
brief
you.
meeting
I
last
think that's the
year.
whole point of the 22nd.
Right, that's what I'm
Yes.
saying. So if we do it Tuesday, that's the day before students come back.
All right.
Okay.
I'm fine.
So the 27th.
All right, August 27th.
There's a chance I can make that. I don't know when my flight lands, but.
We expect
Well,
you
you
here.
better come right here, Martin. Top priority.
Flying in.
Like, I envision it'll be a fairly short meeting, but
Okay,
just to
you're
like
good.
touch base.
Sounds
since
as
Marcy
good.
opens nice before
Yeah.
Doors open, let's do it.
Okay.
I think they're way better than a lot of the
The others, nothing jumps out at me for 2025, but
Okay.
you know how it is. We,
Yep.
we end up,
Jack's birthday, but I'm like,
what day?
October 3rd. It's fine.
You sure?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. We are on pace to have the longest meeting in the history of school board, I think. End of the year calendar,
We don't have to do anything with that. I just wanted to put it on here. At the SAU board meeting on Monday, we'll talk about the end date. We've had one traditional snow day. And so right now, that would mean us, instead of ending on a Friday, we would have a half day on a Monday, which I don't recommend. So I'm hoping that we can, at our meeting on Monday, talk about keeping it June 14th, which is a Friday. And then-
You mean in 2024?
In 2024.
25, okay.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, this is next.
And it's good for a couple of things. One, it gives us extra time with teachers, and there's some things that we really need to do at the end of the year with regard to our new student information system and reunification drill. And then we need for our BES teachers to be out of the building on June 14th, so they can get started. And you don't have I on there, but I sent you the information on the foreign exchange student.
Oh, yes.
That student is the brother of a student who has been here.
In the same family.
Same family. Brian recommends it.
Do we need to vote on that tonight? Okay.
Yes.
Motion
I'll
to,
make that motion to approve foreign exchange students.
any discussion?
Oh, the packet looked.
Yeah.
Can we force him to play hockey if he changes his mind? Because he says he wants to be a professional hockey player.
Yeah.
Then you better play hockey.
Sounds good.
His brother was a solid player.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, you did have soccer in there too. Nice. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Is that it then? Moving on to any public comment? Any public comment? The public has dwindled, but they're still public. All right, excellent. Board committee and delegate reports. As everybody knows, we don't really have, we're in, next meeting in May, we'll assign new delegate positions. Why don't you guys all just email me individually, whatever committee you're interested in, and then we'll figure it out from there. The only one I think is potentially gonna require some discussion is the policy one, because I get the impression a bunch of people want to do the policy stuff, so we'll have to figure that one out. But the others I don't think are
Well, I also
big deal.
wonder if we want to change around a few things. I have some ideas, so.
All right, shoot me what you have, and, I mean, we can talk about it now, but I'd rather not. I mean, I'd rather move on unless. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll email
Right.
you and then you can collate it for us.
Okay, all right, sounds good. I guess we should go through these, though. Is there really much
I'll
of
say
any
that
to talk
wellness
about?
has not met. We were supposed to meet today and it was canceled because of the powers issue.
We talked about kind of the negotiation stuff, which is essentially that MOU we talked about.
The MOU, but also Seth and I during our meetings have talked about the idea of having a meeting sometime in June, just to kind of get ahead of negotiations, because I think last time it started in August, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but so maybe that's where, ground rules are established instead of waiting till the school year starts, if you have an appetite for that.
I feel like we talked about that last time too and didn't do it, and it probably would have been helpful.
Okay.
No,
So-
not a bad idea.
So I can work on setting up
Yeah.
some dates.
You can, and Seth, if you're listening over there, two sessions, so 2 contracts ago, you weren't involved at that time, but I thought it was great. There was a meeting without any attorneys, other than I am an attorney, but like real attorneys. And we met at the high school library, I think it was right around kind of the last day of the school, and just talked about the stuff. And I thought that was really useful.
And I feel like that's what we
but,
intended to do last time, but never
just throw it out
did,
there.
so.
You would have to
something like
get
that
your
for an
attorney, though, to be comfortable with that, and as would we, but we would.
Yeah, I think that would help too, because I do
Definitely.
remember that too. It was tricky to find a time we could all meet, because we were in August trying to find meetings for September, and everybody was sort of busy.
But the thing is we haven't even decided who's on the negotiations committee. Right?
No, this is all, that meeting would be in June that we're talking about.
Yeah.
All those dates are in August or September, so.
But that's for everybody?
No, for whoever the
No,
two
whoever
people
the,
on the negotiation.
whoever the
Yeah.
negotiation people
So,
are.
yep.
Otherwise, anyone have anything to add from any of the committee things they want to talk about?
There's a lot of stuff for New Hampshire School Board Association.
Your mic.
There's a lot of stuff for the New Hampshire School Board Association. I think they're still doing the legislative overview. So they already have part 1, now they're gonna have part 2. They also have the right to know groups. There's gonna be a part 3 of that other one too. Right to know, part 1, part 2, chairing an effective meeting, and then May, presentation by the College Guidance Network. I already let Angela know, but there's the new school board member orientation, 2 of those, and there's just so many. I could keep going. They put like a ton of stuff on there for digital communication, cartoon EDU, special education law for school boards, basics of collective bargaining for board members, iPlatform, and a save the date for the New Hampshire and Vermont Cybersecurity Summit.
Not interested.
What? I thought you were
Not my line of-
speaking at it. No?
not my line of
Okay,
work.
all right.
It could be, Martin, it could be.
Do they have Geek Squad going to that? I don't know. We'll see.
She called you a geek.
So that's it. There's a lot of stuff coming up, so if you want, I can forward you this page, and If not, just go on nhsba.org.
Are these different than the daily emails we get from them? Like, we get that email every day
No,
from them
it's all
that
the
has,
same.
it's the same stuff? Yeah, I
I
figured.
just try and like let you guys know. in
I mean, I
case
just
you're
delete
not
those, so I
looking.
appreciate you telling me.
Yeah.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
like, you get so much email.
You get them every
No doubt.
day. It's like,
And Angela, I mean, it's, you're gonna be taking over on the Booster Club. I had a very brief stint on the Booster Club, but,
you've done my second.
yeah.
They keep telling me they don't need a school board rep.
See, there you go.
It's like, but I can do it that way and not have to help with
Yeah,
everything else.
Oh, so you're giving up the spot that you had to Angela?
Well, she's on the Booster Committee.
Oh, you
So
are?
I don't need to, they don't need me.
I said I wouldn't do it if I got the school board.
Oh, well,
Well.
you're doing both. Lucky you.
You shouldn't lie to organizations like that. Back to public comment. Any public comment? Going once, twice, okay. Board open comment.
None, you
Any-
have none, Bryce.
What's that?
You have no bottom line.
No, I don't. Any bottom lines for Marcy? Bottom lines are where, and you guys can ask who. Nothing on the agenda, just anything pops in. It's not unusual that somebody in the course of the month will ask us some fairly obscure thing that we'll have no idea, what's the level of water in Turry Pond or something, and that's a
Wayne,
terrible
could you get on
example, but, and you'll say, hey, do you know? And she might say, oh, I do know that, or whatever, or she'll be like, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. Like, it's just sort of usually one-off, just kind of random things for the most part. How does something work, whatever. But, no, nobody? All right, accordance to RSA 91-A:3, sub 2, sub C, do we have a motion to go into a non-public meeting?
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Melanie?
Roll call. Aye, what?
Martin? Aye. Jenna?
Aye.
It took a long.
Angela? Bryce, aye. Okay, motion passes. We'll be going into
Never
a
start with
non-public
me.
meeting.
Never. God.
I know, yeah.
Can we do a bio break?
Yes.